colleagues to join us as we commence or reconvene for public comment.
Smita Patel, followed by Roma Dawson.
Just one moment,
Okay.
Tony. I think we may have a
Sorry,
Donna
I wasn't
issue.
counting heads.
We don't have a quorum.
But now
We're okay
Yeah,
on the
they're
quorum.
in the back.
All right.
They're hearing it.
Okay. Nora indicated we're okay to go forward. Thank you, Tony.
Honorable Mayor, and members of the City Council, good evening. My name is Smita Patel. As a member of the General Plan Task Force representing District 2, I want to thank staff for all their work to come up with this deeply thought out recommendation. Coyote Valley is not just plots of land to be monetized. It's a precious natural resource, a floodplain that protects our city, cleans our air, and purifies our water. It's a refuge for wildlife, an escape for all of us to get away to nature, a link to our agricultural past and the earth. You will hear from many lawyers trying to scare you into letting their clients pave it over for warehouses. Please don't give in. This is too important for all the citizens of our valley and the generations to come. Please support the staff and task force recommendations. Thank you.
Roma Dawson, followed by Lori and Nao Kamen.
Thank you. I urge you to support the staff recommendations for Coyote and for the study. I hope the scope can comment on the importance of preserving the rural character of Coyote and respect the wildlife connectivity. I had the privilege of working for Charlotte Powers, and when she took office in 1992, Mayor Hammer appointed her to the General Plan 2020. I remember driving out to what we lovingly called Lake Tandem at the time, and Charlotte and I looking at each other going, this will probably never happen. Enough time, enough money. Let's give some certainty to everybody. Thank you.
Lori and Nao, followed by Dashiell Leeds.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Lori Bostakamen, and I'm here tonight speaking along with my 7-year-old daughter, Nio, who will speak first.
I love Spina Farms. Don't destroy it, please. Spina Farms is great, and that warehouse is too big to buy everything. Bye-bye.
I'm a pediatrician and a mother who lives and works in San Jose, and I'm here today to urge you to please vote to follow the staff recommendations to preserve Coyote Valley. As a pediatrician, I've seen our children suffering with worsening obesity and mental health problems over the past year and a half through the COVID pandemic. And I can tell you that our children desperately need more access to nature in our city, not less, so that they can have the many physical and mental health benefits that nature offers. Coyote Valley is critically important to San Jose and needs to be protected so that families can access nature for their health and well-being, and so that children can have the opportunity.
Dashiell Leeds, followed by Justin Lardenois.
Hello, my name is Dashiell Leeds. I'm the Conservation Assistant for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. We support the staff recommendations in the memo from Mayor Liccardo and Council Members Jimenez, Perales, Foley, and Cohen. Regarding the study for land uses east of Monterey Road, we urge the Council to ensure that wildlife connectivity and biodiversity is protected and expanded. Coyote Valley is one of the last remaining landscape linkages between the Santa Cruz Mountains and the rest of California. Without the ability to migrate out of the mountains, mountain lions and other species will suffer from genetic isolation. I grew up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and I've seen a mountain lion with my own eyes. Despite its size, it vanished into the forest like a ghost. These beings are awe-inspiring. Coyote Valley provides habitat, wildlife mobility, flood protection, climate resilience, and physical and mental health benefits for our community. We have supported the protection of Coyote Valley for decades, and we are thankful for the ongoing efforts of other community members and organizations who have also fought to protect this beautiful and essential ecosystem. Thank you.
Justin, followed by Kay Vish.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. Good evening. I'm Justin Lardenois. I'm a San Jose Planning Commissioner, and I voted with the minority in favor of approving the staff recommendation, but I'm speaking tonight as an individual. Coyote Valley is an irreplaceable natural resource, and we need to preserve it for future generations, for wildlife, and flood mitigation. And in a wider sense, this item is about whether we want to focus on infill and smart growth or go back to the urban sprawl era. I'm asking you tonight to do the right thing and protect Coyote Valley. Thank you.
Kay Vish, followed by Doug Block.
Hi, my name is Lalita. My zone is called Kavish. And a lot of people said a lot of important things that are all in support of keeping Coyote Valley protected. But I want to focus on someone who said that ag is not viable in California. California has over $46 billion in ag income. And you might think it's nuts, but it's literally over $10 billion worth of nuts that we grow here in California. I'm a farmer. I heard someone said, where are the farmers who want to farm there? Here we are here. And even I would say with all that money, it's still not worth taking away the open space and the habitat for the animals, for the wildlife, for the birds in Coyote Valley. And I'm done.
Doug Block, followed by Ariana.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name's Doug Block, and I'm here on behalf of the Teamsters Union, UFCW Local 5, and the South Bay Labor Council. I want to add the voice of workers to the open space advocates speaking in support of the staff recommendations tonight. Amazon is creating a downward pressure on the wages and working conditions of union members in your community. A Teamster makes more than $75,000 a year with fully paid family health insurance and a pension delivering Amazon packages at UPS. Amazon drivers make less than $20 an hour with unaffordable health insurance and no retirement. Please do not approve an Amazon project for the Coyote Valley. Thank you for your consideration.
Ariana, followed by Jennifer Durking.
Hi, I am Ariana, a high schooler from San Jose, and as a Mothers Out Front youth activist, I urge you to protect our climate by voting in favor of rezoning Coyote Valley for agriculture and open space. This matters to me because I frequent this area with my mom and friends. It is only a short drive for me to run around the 4-mile hilly loop to train for cross country. Another reason is that to me, animals are like pure souls of humans, and it would destroy me to see their homes and migrating areas taken over by a company who doesn't have true interests in being sustainable, as that doesn't make money. Don't be the reason this happens to this super important and meaningful area. Coyote Valley plays an important role in absorbing carbon emissions and in protecting downtown San Jose from flooding and smog. And so I urge you to please follow the recommendation of the General Plan Task Force by not building the warehouse and voting to preserve Coyote Valley as farmland and open space.
Jennifer Durking, followed by Dr. Rick Landman.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Durking, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm a member of the California Native Plant Society, and I hope you will vote to protect Coyote Valley for future generations of people, animals, pollinators, and plants. All of these play a key role in fighting climate change at a dire time in our history. As someone who was born in San Jose in the 1960s, I've seen a tremendous change across our region. Orchards, grasslands, entire hillsides have been lost to development. The wealth we've generated has also created significant ecological deficits. Through all these decades, the Coyote Valley has been an important place in my family as a respite from the urban environment to find hope for threatened species such as the checker spot butterflies and other species such as badgers, mountain lions, that look to us to preserve their habitats. When I was a professional fundraiser at De Anza College, I saw faculty and students at the Kirsch Center gathering data to protect the land. And it was there that I learned that Coyote Valley provides critical wildlife corridor between the Santa Cruz Mountains and the Diablo Range. I hope you will save this land for future generations. Thank you.
Dr. Rick Landman, followed by Charlene.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council members. I'm Dr. Rick Landman. I'm the Board of Directors President for the Guadalupe Coyote Resource Conservation District. Our ECD's mission is the conservation of soil, water, and wildlife in Santa Clara County. We strongly support the staff recommendations. The Coyote Valley is priceless for several reasons. It serves as a percolation of water and to lower flooding in Coyote Creek. Any development that leads to more impermeable surface only aggravates that problem, whether they're in the floodplain or not. Number two, there's no place where there's two mountain ranges within 0.4 of a mile of each other like there is in Coyote Valley. And we've submitted a paper to the scientific journal, California Fish and Wildlife, that elk should be allowed to cross from the east part of our county where there are 6 herds to the west. Coyote Valley is the only way that's ever going to happen. Thank you very much.
Charlene, followed by Linda Ruthruth.
Harshe Mur, good evening in our Chochenyo language. I'm the chairwoman of the Moac Maloney tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. My name is Charlene Nijme, and I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on the issue of Coyote Valley. I'm actually a bit sad and disappointed that in these times we live in, when the entire world is debating climate change and the absolute need for shifting to an environmentally responsible plan for future growth, we are here in San Jose discussing a potential betrayal of our values and betrayal of our children's future. Coyote Valley needs to be protected. We are all stewards of these lands, and we are all collectively responsible for our children's futures. We seem to be great at talking about how much we care and how much we are doing to be more sustainable and to develop better, to consume less, to build a better future here in
Linda, followed by Dare.
Hi, Linda Ruthruff with the Santa Clara Valley chapter of the California Native Plant Society and District 1 resident. The world is in a biodiversity crisis. We are in the midst of an insect apocalypse. Songbird populations are crashing worldwide. More and more plants and animals are teetering on the brink of extinction. We need to decide who we will be as a community. Will we do our part to stem the loss of biodiversity, or will we continue to pave over lands needed for survival of the plants and creatures we share the planet with? San Jose voters, the task force, your staff, and all the community members who sent in emails have made it clear they want to help heal the earth. They want you to protect Coyote Valley. Please protect the last of our valley floor habitat. Please vote yes to protect Coyote Valley. Thank you.
Dare, followed by Saneth Mathapathi.
Where are the farmers during these meetings? We were outgrowing your food. I'm still out in the field right now. I am not honored to be here. This is an embarrassment. I'm a protector of these lands that my ancestors have bled into. Several members of your council have done their duty, but as usual, they are in the minority. This is addressed to the rest of you. Now, let me be clear. I'm not here to speak to you of profit, the economy, to bribe you toward justice. I am here to remind and warn you. This land has nothing to prove to you. This land owes us nothing, and we owe it our very life. We own nothing, and this charade needs to end. Remember what it is to be a public servant and serve. If you have wondered what you would do during the end of our world, you are doing it now, here and now. Save your souls.
Saneth, followed by Jacqueline Bowe.
Good evening. My name is Saneth Mathapathi, and I'm currently a senior at Lindbergh High School as well as chair of the Environmental Commission at the Youth Public Policy Institute. I ask that we implement the recommendations for Coyote Valley passed by the General Plan Task Force, removing the Mid-Coyote Valley Urban Reserve designation, and moving the urban service area boundary north, consistent with the proposed General Plan land use changes in North Coyote Valley. Coyote Valley is massive for the region, providing a natural infrastructure landscape with numerous benefits, from flood protection to habitat for barrier plants and wildlife, to valuable open space and trails to work opportunities to carbon sequestration. With that said, I request that we consider the land's immense long-term investment value for climate resilience and go through with the General Plan Task Force recommendations. This plan adequately acknowledges our needs and is in our best interest. Regarding the warehouse proposal, it is a disastrous idea that hypocritically ignores our city's progression towards climate resilience. From our city's vehicle miles traveled policy to our climate accord goal of carbon neutrality by 2030. Please consider us youth in the green future in making a decision. Thank you for your time.
Jacqueline Bowe, followed by Louise Jackson.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline, and I recently graduated from UC Santa Barbara with a degree in environmental studies. More importantly, I am a member of the San Jose community. Growing up, I went to Del Roble Elementary, Davis Middle School, and Oak Grove High School, but I wasn't introduced to nature until my stepdad exposed us to hiking when I was 8. I remember walking alongside Coyote Creek and my stepdad saying, "I'll give you $5 if you find an animal bigger than a bread box." This is where my love for animals and the environment started. But it wasn't until I started college that I realized that this exposure was incredibly influential to my current passions for environmental conservation. To me, Coyote Valley and the other open spaces like it are vital to my childhood. While I am extremely lucky to have been exposed to nature by my stepdad, I'm sure there are many others who weren't given this opportunity. Destroying the little bits of open land we have left in our city is only going to make nature less accessible to people who may not have the time and resources.
Louise Jackson, followed by Ann Trong.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, my name is Louise Jackson. I'm an emerita professor and cooperative extension specialist at UC Davis. For 30 years, I've studied vegetable crop systems in Central California. In my opinion, agricultural viability in the Coyote Valley would increase if the high-quality farmland were transitioned to small-scale, diversified organic production. The high cash value crops would be locally successful economically. There are many young farmers who jump at the chance to farm in Coyote Valley. Organic production is compatible with the protection of natural ecosystems nearby. Our research has shown lower greenhouse gas emissions in organic than in conventional systems. Funding for the transition could come from the state's climate smart agriculture programs. Other small-scale diversified organic farms on the urban edge, such as soil-borne farms in Sacramento, could help provide templates for this type of transition. Thank you.
Ann, followed by Mike Sodergren. Ann Trong. Okay, we're going to move on to Mike Sodergren, followed by King.
Mike Sodergren, PAC San Jose. We advocate for the preservation of the unique places and culture that tell the story of who we are. We also believe in fixing our jobs, housing, and balance through high-density development at the city's historic core. Sadly, we've had to accept the loss of many historic places at our core. We do so because we count on San Jose's resolve to fight for the open space that is the context that frames our beloved Silicon Valley. Jobs that might have been in Coyote Valley will be developed downtown. If council bows to pressure of those seeking a windfall profit in Coyote Valley, trust will be lost by those of us who chose to support projects such as Downtown West and our belief in the ability to find a meet-in-the-middle approach to being good neighbors. Once known as the Valley of the Heart's Delight, the soil and the environment here is excellent. Do not entomb our last vast stretch of open space under shipping warehouses. The community loves and supports places like Spina Farms, a true cultural landmark of who we are.
King, followed by Anna Budman.
Hi, this is Kerry Carlson speaking on behalf of Michael King. Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. I would like to point out that existing businesses that serve the community are already operating on current zoning of Coyote Valley. We are a family-owned trucking business that has taken over previous heavy industrial use of a lumber yard that existed there for 50 years. We serve the local community as well as the limited agricultural uses in Coyote Valley. If our zoning is changed, it would put our family-owned business out of business and result in inverse condemnation of our land. Low bed trucking would then have to come from outside the area, resulting in an increase in greenhouse gases, opposite of what the plan hopes to achieve. I really hope that you take into consideration the existing business owners that are trying to operate in Coyote Valley. Thank you.
Anna Budman, followed by Ann.
Hi, my name is Anna Budman. I'm a lifelong resident of San Jose and I'm a high school senior, and I'm here with Mothers Out Front. Please vote yes to protect Coyote Valley. My generation and our future children are the ones who will suffer the effects of climate change. And we need the climate resilience that an undeveloped Coyote Valley will provide. It will protect San Jose from flooding, provide a place to grow food close to the city, and help wild animals survive. Its wetlands absorb carbon from the atmosphere. People are making arguments about the economy, but what we really need to take into account is the fact that the economy as we know it will radically change with the climate disaster if we do not take action, and if we do not take action now. So please vote yes, and please don't destroy our climate. Thank you.
Ann, followed by Roland.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I am Ann Trung with Mothers Out Front. As a climate activist, I urge you to vote for the staff recommendation. I applaud your resolution to go carbon neutral by 2030. Coyote Valley could play a huge role in reaching San Jose's aggressive and very necessary climate target. Plants naturally remove carbon from the atmosphere through photosynthesis. Farmers doing regenerative agriculture in the valley will accelerate carbon removal from the atmosphere. It could be one of the most cost-effective ways to remove emissions from the atmosphere. Regenerative agriculture would also greatly increase the soil's ability to absorb floodwaters and continue to reduce flood damage in downtown and elsewhere. It makes farms more drought tolerant, increases productivity, lowers costs, which increases profitability as well as local food security. Vote for our young people's future. Thank you.
Roland, followed by Ed Fritz.
Good evening. North Coyote Valley is too far south for a large distribution warehouse. The area adjacent to the Union Pacific tracks immediately south of the Metcalf Energy Center is the only viable location for a relocated Caltrain maintenance facility south of the Blossom Hill Caltrain station. The existing maintenance facility on Stockton should be rezoned for housing, preferably affordable. Staff completely missed the Planning Commission's concern about the loss of opportunity for reverse commuting. Staff also completely failed to recognize that the majority of traffic on 101 Monterey Highway and Santa Teresa originates in San Benito and Monterey counties. The entire area west of Santa Teresa Boulevard is pristine and should be protected from anything, including agriculture. Thank you.
Ed Fritz, followed by Marav Vonchak.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. In 1971, Joni Mitchell sang these words. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hotspot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Joni didn't know about Amazon warehouses back then. If we don't protect these very rare and endangered lands now, then when will we? Because you only get one chance to destroy a fantastic and beautiful thing. If you truly want to devalue the land of Coyote Valley, then cut it all down and put up a parking lot. I, my wife and family, my community and future generations ask the council to preserve and protect these Coyote Valley lands. Thank you.
Marav Vonchak, followed by Anika K.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Marav Vonchak. I live in San Jose in District 6. I'm an environmental educator and a naturalist. I lead BioBlitz events, which are nature exploration events for families in Coyote Valley and in parks in San Jose, such as Alum Rock Park, Kelly Park, Helier Parks, and many others. I collaborate with organizations such as Santa Clara Valley Audubon Society, Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful, and OSA. I teach thousands of people about our local nature and why it's important to protect it. During the events I organize, combined with other citizen scientists' data, we already documented over 1,000 species that live in Coyote Valley alone. All our data is available on the iNaturalist app. You can all explore that. My family and I love Coyote Valley and would like to protect it. I would like to ask you to approve the staff recommendation and join us on our next BioBlitz at BioBlitz Club. Thanks.
Anika K, followed by Emily Schwing.
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo and council members. My name is Annika.
As a high school student, I was excited to hear that San Jose has committed to becoming carbon neutral by 2030. I ask you to continue your climate leadership by adopting the staff recommendation of rezoning Coyote Valley for agriculture and open space. 2 years ago, I, along with other Mothers Out Front volunteers, knocked on doors in the Olander neighborhood, which had been hit hard by the 2017 flood. Every neighbor who answered signed a postcard urging you to protect them by preserving Coyote Valley as a vital flood absorption plain. You listened to us then, and we are hoping you will listen to us now. If you do not vote to protect Coyote Valley, a huge warehouse likely to be built on it will emit pollution that will seep into the groundwater connected to our aquifer for drinking water. I don't want you to put our county and environment's health even at more risk. I hope you will listen to youth like me so all of us can benefit from the climate resilience that Coyote Valley provides to us. Thank you.
Emily Schwing, followed by Karen Coppett.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Emily Schwing, and I'm here representing Resolution and the CC Poder Collective. Tonight, I urge you to support the city staff and General Plan Task Force recommendations for permanent protection of the Coyote Valley region as open space and agriculture. Coyote Valley is prime farmland that has and can continue to provide San Jose residents local fresh produce. The 7,400 acres of agricultural land could eventually generate $50 million per year and benefit San Jose by providing access to fresh, sustainable, and culturally significant produce. Coyote Valley is one of the last remaining locations in San Jose that is large enough to implement a local regenerative agricultural effort, which would include farming and grazing practices that, among other benefits, can help San Jose reach its climate goals by rebuilding soil organic matter, resulting in both carbon downdraw and improving the water cycle. Thank you for your consideration.
Karen, followed by Ed Berg.
Good evening, council members, and thank you very much for letting me comment. My name is Karen Coppett. I live in the Rose Garden, which is in Councilmember Dev Davis's District 6. I was born here in Santa Clara County and grew up going to Coyote Valley all my life. I love it. It's so incredibly beautiful. I'm a recently retired senior water conservation specialist from the Santa Clara Valley Water District, and as such, water resources weigh heavily upon my mind and mean a lot to me. As you know, we are in the middle of an epic drought, so this valley means more to us right now than it ever has before. Coyote Valley provides natural protection from flooding and protects an important aquifer. I urge you to please support staff recommendation and redesignate it for open space and agriculture. Thank you so much.
Ed Berg, followed by Stacy Wolney. Ed. Okay, we're going to move on to Stacy Wolney, followed by Chris Kay.
I agree with the other speakers who have been articulating the value of Coyote Valley for biodiversity, recreation, water sources, flood protection, and food security. And we've also heard from current landowners and businesses who have been here for, a generation or two, as have I. But what I'm much more interested in is how the native people of this land would like Coyote Valley to be managed, the people who stewarded it much more successfully than we have for thousands of years. So I encourage the council to learn from our past mistakes and establish a wiser path of consistently protecting Coyote Valley and other undeveloped space, firmly saying no to every proposal that does not holistically steward this land and help our communities and ecosystems thrive together. Otherwise, we will continue to lose our wildlife, water sources, cultural heritage, and food security, one ugly private development at a time. No more sprawl. Please vote to approve the planning staff recommendations. Thank you.
Chris Kay, followed by Miguel Jimenez.
Hi, thank you. Building in a greenfield will always be easier. A distribution center is not compatible with wildlife crossings. As per AB 948, Coyote Valley has been recognized as a resource of statewide significance. The goal of conserving 30% of California's natural and working lands is going to take resolve. Once the land is developed, it is permanently gone for uses supporting wild or agricultural life. Please take the long view. Go with the staff and task force recommendation. Thank you.
Miguel Jimenez, followed by Ed Berg.
Good evening. My name is Miguel Jimenez. My wife Susie and I volunteer for the Morgan Hill Responsible Growth Coalition, and we led the successful signature gathering effort for a citizens initiative to ban distribution centers in the city of Morgan Hill. We are speaking tonight to voice our support for the Coyote Valley General Plan amendments, and we also wanted to highlight the severe consequences of a 2.3 million square foot warehouse distribution center with 500 semi-truck dock bays in the Coyote Valley. First, distribution centers are very inefficient from an economic development standpoint. The industrial employment density for distribution warehouse centers is very low. This means a lot of land is required to generate a relatively small number of jobs. Furthermore, distribution center jobs are rapidly being replaced with automation and robots. Many of the jobs initially created by these developments will cease to exist in the near future. My wife, Susie, will continue our statement during her comment period.
Ed Berg, followed by Susie Jimenez. Ed? Okay, Susie Jimenez.
Good evening. My name is Susie Jimenez. The detrimental impacts of distribution centers and their high semi-truck traffic on the health and safety of the surrounding community and environment is well documented. As stated by the Environmental Protection Agency, exposure to diesel exhaust can lead to serious health conditions like asthma and respiratory illnesses and can worsen existing heart and lung disease, especially in children and the elderly. Emissions from diesel engines contribute to the production of ground-level ozone, which damages crops, trees, and other vegetation. On Sunday, we visited the Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve. It was wonderful to see so many people and families enjoying the rolling hills, wildlife, and fresh air. The Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve is very close to the proposed warehouse and distribution center development. The noise, pollution, and traffic created by this development would create numerous negative externalities for our existing open space preserves, wildlife, climate, and all the residents of Santa Clara County. To protect our environment, residents and
Patricia Darling, followed by Chayton. Patricia? Okay, I'm going to move on to Chayton.
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity, and I really appreciate the work what has been done by the staff recommendation team. Recently, there was a charade of COP26 where they were talking about saving the planet and saving the future generations. But I think the Planning Commission is completely missed that point. And I completely think that once you destroy something, it's very difficult to get it back. Once it's destroyed forever. And I think the Coyote Valley is one of that piece of land which we should be preserving for the future generations to come. The late Stephen Hawking gave us an ultimatum that the humans must leave the earth within the next 100 years. And I think so the planning committee has voted on destroying it and leading the brigade in getting us there at the earliest time possible. It's very unfortunate that we have to beg often to save this beautiful piece of open space for our children's future. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Krista Rupp, followed by Juan Estrada.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. I'm Krista Rupp, North Morgan Hill resident and Executive Director of the nonprofit Visit Morgan Hill. I urge Council to support staff recommendations. The Coyote Valley and all its benefits mentioned tonight must be protected. Once they're gone, they're gone. Sustained economic benefit, community value, and ecological preservation can and should coexist here through informed and balanced management as recommended by your staff to explore. As you heard from Mr. and Mrs. Jimenez, warehouses and distribution centers were debated in Morgan Hill too, as devastating pollution and traffic generators with unproven benefit to the community. Please protect Coyote Valley now and for future generations. Thank you.
Go ahead to the microphone, Juan.
Dear City Council, my name is Juan Estrada. While I recently joined the staff at Green Foothills and am an active community leader, I'm speaking tonight as a General Plan Review Task Force member. Tonight is an opportunity for you to once again demonstrate that San Jose possesses the courage and wisdom to take bold action to benefit everyone now, tomorrow, and perhaps forever. Protecting Coyote Valley is both an environmental and an equity issue. Past development relied on sprawl into open space, resulting in inequitable impacts. 41 local leaders signed an equity and inclusion letter supporting protecting Coyote Valley. Over 2,400 community members have written to you in support. I urge you to seize this rare opportunity to show the world that when it comes to protecting the future for all, you stand united. Please vote tonight to support the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Fred Buzo, followed by Alan Gian.
Hello, Fred Buzo, San Jose Director for SPUR. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So San Jose is on the cusp of deepening its commitment to growing up rather than growing out. And you have a unique and critical opportunity to concentrate growth within its existing urbanized areas rather than sprawling out further. And we want to commend the planning staff for embracing the vision that Michael outlined earlier, identifying that Coyote Valley is a unique asset that should be preserved as a resource for the community that furthers the city goals of environmental sustainability, among other benefits. So the voters already showed their enthusiasm for this change, and we hope that the mayor and that the city council do the same. We would love to see a unanimous vote, and I want to commend all of you for the work that you've done on this. Thank you.
Alan Gian, followed by Richard Lim.
Good evening, council members. My name is Alan Jian. I am a Bay Area student and a member of the Environmental Commission in the Youth Public Policy Institute. I am an immigrant who moved here about 6 years ago, and when I entered the Bay Area suburbs, everything felt so lifeless. It wasn't until I visited Coyote Valley, when I walked along its trails and absorbed its beautiful scenery, that I truly found the magic of this place. Coyote Valley is a green jewel that has contributed to the memories of many and offered an escape from the hyper-competitive environment that is Silicon Valley. Coyote Valley could nurture many more happy moments to many more people for many more years, but only if we protect it. I urge the city to please do not allow the construction of warehouses in this beloved place. It will destroy its beauty. Please seriously consider the environmental implications. Thank you.
Richard Lim, followed by caller 8155.
Good evening. This is Mrs. Richard Lim. Good evening, members and the mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Richard Lim's wife, the landowner of property in Coyote Valley. We definitely love Coyote Valley and we look forward to living there for a long time. But you know what we ask you to consider is the viability of agriculture for all of us. And I know you're listening to a lot of opinions today. What we urge you to do is to also listen to the opinions of the landowners and the businesses who have a bigger stake in your decision. Thank you.
Caller 8155, followed by Fred. Press *6 to unmute. Caller with the phone number ending 8155.
I've hit star. Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Good evening. I'm Al Victors, a land use consultant. The planning department has recommended that over 200 acres of industrial park zoning be retained within Coyote Valley. That property and the 126 acres at the corner of Santa Teresa and Bailey are far, far different from the rest of Coyote Valley. Many people have talked about these differences. The 126 acres is an opportunity for a creative public-private partnership to produce a well-designed development and enhance the open space goals. I urge the commissioners to retain IP zoning for the 126 acres and partner a creative project. Thank you.
Fred, followed by Sam Farb.
Good evening. I'm Fred Lester, an owner of the 42 acres known as Spina Farms on Bailey Avenue. In 1969, my family invested in this land solely for its industrial park zoning with the intention to develop it. Since this time, the IBM campus, Calpine Plant, and Gavilan College Annex were approved. Measure T secured $50 million of taxpayer funds rewarded to just 2 billionaire developers in Coyote, with no funding left to secure smaller neighboring lands. These billionaires more than tripled their initial investments while we remaining owners operate failing agricultural ventures with annual deficits. If council votes tonight to downzone our land, stripping us of our property rights, please have a plan in place to compensate owners for our industrial zoning valuations. The Lesters have been generous to the city of San Jose for over 160 years. We merely ask that you be fair with us, nothing more.
Sam Farb, followed by Jorge Lopez.
Hello, my name is Sam Farb, and my firm Berliner Cohen represents Linda Lester, who along with her cousin own 42 acres of land in North Coyote Valley. The Open Space Authority has indicated that agriculture in Coyote Valley is alive and well. Nothing could be further from the truth. Dr. Daniel Sumner, an expert in the field of agricultural economics, has authored a report concluding that agricultural use of the Lester, Foster, Benson properties in North Coyote Valley is not economically viable. In a phone conversation that Linda Lester and I had with Mayor Liccardo and certain members of his staff, the mayor himself acknowledged that he did not even have to read Dr. Sumner's report to know that agricultural use of lands in North Coyote Valley is not economically viable. If the planning staff had interviewed any of the prior two farming tenants of the Lester property, it would have found out that they had gone out of business and left Coyote Valley because farming is not profitable on the Lester property. Thank you.
Jorge Lopez, followed by Tom Foster. Mr. Lopez, there you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you all. The mayor, honored council members. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak here. So I'm a resident of the South Bay, and I was born in San Jose in 1999 and grew up here. It's been a really nice spot. And, you know, growing up here, it's been really nice seeing the difference between San Jose and the South Bay. And I'd really appreciate it for the other generations to just see what it's like when the land is taken care of by the people that have grown there and lived there for thousands of years. So I really appreciate if you listen to the native voices out there, the Amamatsun people, and pay attention to the earth and care for it, because, you know, these agricultural people, there are some animal agriculture that's been said that increases the carbon in the soil. So just be aware of that, but I'd really like the land to be preserved. Thank you so much.
Tom Foster, followed by, well, let's start with Tom Foster.
Good evening. I'm Tom Foster, and I represent the Foster family members. We've owned property in the valley for over 50 years, and there is a reason why the Planning Commission denied the recommendation. It's not because they're hawkish, pro-development, lack concern for the environment, just the opposite. I heard a lot of concern about the environment. They rejected it because they had concerns that agriculture is not viable, and that was after the city planning staff had given them a 1-hour presentation full of glossy pictures and stories, no analysis, no facts. You now have 2 different reports from 2 different recognized industry experts that conclude agriculture is not viable. And the mayor's also admitted it. He doesn't believe ag's viable. So this is a taking. The Planning Commission also recognized that the owners have not been involved in the discussion. No landowners that I know of have been involved. And I hoped you read my letter, and I hoped it shocked you that I've had a total of 6 minutes of public comment time to provide input. How's that a fair process? If you want to take our land for the public, then you need to buy it at a fair market price. Thank you.
My next two speakers are both signed on using the same name. So I have Chuck Reed twice. So I'm calling the first Chuck Reed followed by the second Chuck Reed.
And we know what he sounds like. So
So go ahead and unmute. First Chuck Reed.
we'll know which one's the real Chuck
Yeah.
Reed.
Well, sometimes if they register and then they forward that link to somebody else, they'll both come in with the same name. Okay, so we're going to try the second Chuck Reed since the first one has not responded.
Okay, the second Chuck Reed is here. The first Chuck Reed was locked out by his computer. Thanks for the time. If all you do tonight is approve the memo by the mayor and the council members, you'll leave much of Coyote Valley open space unprotected from development that might be approved by a future city council. If you want to implement your vision and make it permanent, you need to do more. There's only one way to ensure the open space goals in Coyote Valley will be successful. You need to own the land or the development rights. Changing general plan designations and zoning are not permanent solutions. Best course of action is to direct staff to identify potential funding sources from state, regional, local agencies, nonprofit organizations, and individuals so you can buy land or conservation easements. You should do for the small property owners like the people that I represent what you did for Sobrato and Brandenburg and buy their properties and preserve the open space permanently. Thanks.
Jenny Green, followed by Karina.
Hi, my name is Jenny Green. I'm a volunteer with Mothers Out Front and I work at Green Foothills. I'm here tonight as a San Jose resident and the mother of 2 daughters. Please vote yes to protect Coyote Valley. In 2019, I went door to door with Mothers Out Front to talk with people in the San Jose neighborhoods that had flooded in 2017. We talked to hundreds of people and nearly every person that we spoke with supported preserving Coyote Valley as open space and farmland. Many of them signed postcards that we sent to City Council to show you how much public support there is for this. I have never done a door knocking campaign that was as popular as this. People do not want downtown to flood. People in San Jose strongly want to preserve Coyote Valley for open space and farmland. We all have a big stake in preserving those lands. Please vote in favor of the staff recommendation.
Jenny, we accidentally muted you. We're going to try to get you back.
I think, did you hear me say the part where I said, please vote in favor of the staff recommendation? Because that was the end.
Yeah, we cut you off right before that. So thank you.
Oh, okay. That was basically what I was saying.
Okay.
Thank you for listening.
Karina, followed by Amanda Bancroft. Okay, Karina, you're using an old version of Zoom. So we need you to either call in or update your Zoom software and raise your hand again. We do have 21 speakers, so you have time to update and sign back in. Amanda Bancroft, followed by Carol Watts.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Amanda Bancroft, and I'm with 350 Silicon Valley and leading their San Jose team. I'm here tonight to ask that you please protect Coyote Valley from development and support the General Plan Task Force and staff recommendations. The project would threaten our groundwater from polluting diesel trucks, threaten our potential to mitigate flooding in downtown, along with threatening the local wildlife. So I ask to please vote to protect this land. Thank you.
Carol Watts, followed by Vince Rocha.
Thank you. I'm Carol Watts, President of the League of Women Voters of San Jose, Santa Clara. As detailed in our letter to you of 11/11, we strongly urge you to vote yes, without delay, on the staff recommendations. San Jose has wisely made significant investments in Coyote Valley and voted to go carbon neutral by 2030. Please approve further protections for our rural open space. Be sure you make the decision that will positively affect the most people in our city, region, and the world for the long-term future. Listen to the people who are testifying and recognize our statements in your discussions tonight. Please assess all major claims. For example, what, if any, kind of agriculture is viable? Can the valley aid in reducing greenhouse gas emissions to help the planet to support human life? We also encourage you to develop the proposed climate resilience credit program to support further conservation in Coyote Valley. Thank you for a unanimous yes vote.
Vince Rocha, followed by Gina Whitney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Vince Rocha with the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. We are supporting the memo from the Mayor, Liccardo, Council Members Jimenez, Perales, Foley, and Cohen. We believe you can have a vibrant, jobs-rich economic development that is within the urban boundary, that is infill, that is near transit, and that protection of Coyote Valley is still consistent with those economic development goals. We supporting the staff recommendations, and we believe that, as a general plan task force member who voted for these changes, we urge the council to adopt them and to support the memo. Thank you.
Gina Whitney, followed by Myra Pelagio. Gina Whitney.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. This is Gina Whitney. I'm in District 2. I am very strongly in support of preserving protecting Coyote Valley from industrial development for the reasons that many folks have said. We need to preserve open space, wildlife habitat, including wildlife connectivity. I would much rather be looking at green space and farmland than a giant warehouse. But I must add, the citizens of the county have already spoken on this. 1 year ago, we voted to pass Measure T with a whopping 82% of the vote. And not just a yes vote with no price, but with the knowledge and approval of the cost of the parcel tax to be picked up the voters. So listening to the comments of the 100 or so people here today is necessary, given that the voters of the county have already spoken. So please don't choose to ignore that. Please preserve Coyote Valley and approve the staff recommendations. Thank you.
Myra Pelagio, followed by Joe Baranowski.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Myra Pelagio, and I am the Executive Director for LUNA, Latinos United for a New America. I also hold a degree in Environmental Science and Management from UC Davis and a master's degree in Environmental Studies from SJSU. And I am here today to ask you to vote to approve the staff recommendations for the Coyote Valley General Plan Amendment. Coyote Valley is critically important and needs to be protected for climate resilience. At LUNA, we focus on providing information and resources for the immigrant community. And we have learned that for years, there have been many barriers for the Latinx community to enjoy open space. Coyote Valley is not only one of the closest open spaces for the community in San Jose to enjoy, but it provides essential services for the watershed in our area and for wildlife who have been pushed out by the growth of the city. I ask today for you to do everything in your power to protect Coyote Valley and for you to listen to the voices of Indigenous people and youth asking you to protect their future. Thank you so much.
Joe Baranowski, followed by Connie Romo Ludwig.
Good evening, council members and mayor. My name is Joe Baranowski. I'm a Morgan Hill resident and president of the Morgan Hill Responsible Growth Coalition. I assume some of you attended the League of California Cities annual conference in September. In the approved resolution asking the state legislature to pass legislation that provides for a fair and equitable distribution of local sales tax, you may recall hearing that one big rig truck is equal to about 8,000 passenger vehicles when it comes to impact on pavement and street maintenance. This isn't a hypothetical issue. For example, the city of Kent, Washington had to pass an emergency ordinance to ban distribution centers when their state tax law changed because their street maintenance costs were threatening to bankrupt their city. While you are considering the broader issue of zoning, not a particular use, we all know what is targeted to go there. Not only does distribution and warehousing not make sense from an environmental viewpoint, but it makes no sense from an economic sense. Please, whatever you do, don't allow distribution and warehousing in Coyote Valley. Thank you.
Connie Romo Ludwig, followed by Juan Carlos Araujo.
Thank you for this opportunity to present to you this evening.
I wanted to thank those who truly care about the rich soils and lands of the South County and Coyote Valley. We need to preserve this history and are fighting for our future, the Valley of the Heart's Delight. Together, we make a difference. Thank you.
Juan Carlos Araujo, followed by Patrick McGarity.
Hello, good evening, council members, Honorable Mayor, San Carlos Araujo. Just wanted to really encourage the staff to please move forward to protect Coyote Valley. It's been really a gem and an asset to our community, and it will continue to be and thrive. You've gotten tons of great ideas of what to do. I actually really do agree with Mayor Chuck Reed's comments as well to do a long-term resolution to rezone and make sure that this is preserved long-term. I think it's very important. It's something that I constantly hear being recommended or requested to people to paint beautiful hillsides and things like that. And I think it's better to preserve these lands than to paint them. So thank you for your time.
Paula Faria Gomez, followed by James Wong. Paula? Okay, James Wong, followed by caller 2267.
Hello, my name is Shaolan. We are the farmer in Morgan Hill in Coyote Valleys. So I all hear all the people that you guys, okay, that's right. We care for the next generation, but who care about the farmer over here who have been like my uncle living here more than 40 years. And right now, day and day, everything's so expensive. The whole total living over here for the farmers living is not sustainable anymore. We don't even have the right internet for our property over here. So who care about here? If you guys care about, good, take it over, buy it over, take it as a city public land, and then pay the farmer out here. Or come here who enjoy the life here, enjoy your Saturday, Sunday over here, pay for the ticket, come here, pay for the ticket, and then enjoy your life. Don't just like ruin our life and make it enjoy your life.
Quote unquote unfarmable. The agricultural economy of Santa Clara County has long been formed by Asian American farm workers, and such comments constantly erases Asians and other indigenous and Latinx contributions to the region's growth. Coyote Valley provides farmland, farm jobs, food access, and support for the local community. I urge the City Council and Mayor to do the right thing. Thank you.
PJP, followed by caller 6419.
Good evening, council members. I'm with Kroll Holdings, and we are in escrow to purchase the previously mentioned 126 acres at the corner of Bailey and Monterey. I'm here tonight to tell you, as I told the Planning Commission, that we have a tenant, a user who wants us to build them a facility on this site that would generate thousands of jobs and millions of dollars of revenues for the city of San Jose. This is a real-time project that will bring significant economic activity to the city. What I can also tell you is that this tenant is on a path to powering all of its operations with 100% renewable energy by 2025, and has made a pledge to be net zero carbon by 2040. This is exactly the type of tenant a forward-thinking city like San Jose should welcome. We have always viewed development as a public-private partnership, and I'm confident that together with help of staff, commission, and council, we can create a responsible and sustainable development in Coyote Valley. Thank you.
Caller 6419, followed by Linda Hutchins-Knowles.
I am Edward Berg, representing the Lester, Benson, and Foster families, owners of the NCV properties. Many voices tonight are asking you to do good. I ask you to do right. Doing right means following the Constitution, which says you can't take private property without paying for it. Doing right means acknowledging that agriculture is not an economically viable use of these properties. You know that because the city raised $96 million to buy the Brandenburg and Sobrato properties right across the road, rather than just redesignating them agriculture. Doing right means treating all property owners equally and fairly. If you want to preserve the NCV properties, you should deny staff's recommendation and take time to raise the money to acquire the properties for their fair market value. That way you can heed the voices that are asking you to do good while also doing right. Thank you.
Linda Hutchins Knowles, followed by Jake Tonkel.
Good evening, Mayor Liccardo and council members. This is actually Karina who called earlier. I'm a San Jose resident and middle school student. I urge you to rezone Coyote Valley for agriculture and open space. This is very important to kids like me for drawing carbon out of the air and helping stabilize the climate. Too much open space has been paved over already, and we need to preserve what little is left. In addition, wildlife uses Coyote Valley as a link between habitats, which is irreplaceable, and we should act as good stewards to protect it. You listened to us before, please listen to us again. Thank you.
Jake Tonkel, followed by Megan Fluke.
Honorable Mayor and City Council, I just want to plead for you tonight to protect Coyote Valley. It's an extremely valuable open space for our community, as well as untold economic benefits by helping us mitigate flooding, the CO2 emissions, and other very important environmental concerns. There's lots of ways that we can ensure that economic opportunity occurs within our city boundaries, and I urge you to follow staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Megan Fluke.
My name is Megan Fluke, and I'm the Executive Director of Green Foothills and a San Jose resident. I want to recognize and thank the 2,500 people who sent letters to the San Jose City Council asking you to approve staff recommendations for the Coyote Valley General Plan amendments. They've done this over the past week and a half. This is an unprecedented amount of support on such an important issue. Residents across San Jose and the state of California are watching. Tonight is a historic moment, and I urge unanimous support for staff recommendations. Thank you.
Aubrey Williams, followed by Victoria Capravizia.
Hi. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Hi, my name is Aubrey Williams, and I'm asking for you to please vote yes to approve the staff recommendations for Coyote Valley General Plan amendments. We've already heard several accounts of the true benefit that this place provides for our community, but so I'm not going to repeat those things. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous, but I just want you to kind of double check and use Los Angeles as an example, a place that has in the past, overexpanded and in turn has, had major detrimental impacts to our wildlife in the area. Griffith Park being a primary example of what happens when you cut off several ranges from each other and the negative impact it has on wildlife as well as our communities. So please just do what you can to protect Coyote Valley. This is a first step. It's not the final one, but thanks. Bye.
Victoria Capravizia, followed by Vicky Alexander.
Hi, I'm Victoria, resident in Coyote Valley. Please vote to approve the staff recommendations for Coyote Valley General Plan amendments. Coyote Valley is critically important and needs to be protected for climate resilience, wildlife habitat and connectivity, flood and groundwater protection, and open space and farmland. Thank you.
Vicky Alexander, followed by Sharon Luna.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I strongly support the staff and general plan recommendations to further preserve Coyote Valley. I am so impressed, and I hope you are too, by the large number of my fellow residents who have taken the time to speak up. I understand there have been thousands of emails, plus those making comments tonight about the importance of Coyote Valley for climate resilience, flood protection, wildlife corridors, aquifer recharge, local sustainable agriculture, and recreation. These voices echo the overwhelming support by San Jose residents in 2018 for Measure T, which included $50,000 for protection of natural infrastructure. Now is the time to add further protections for this irreplaceable resource. Thank you.
Sharon from Luna, followed by Peter Ortiz.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sharon Luna, and I live in San Martin. I would like to ask you to please support your staff report and recommendations to protect the beautiful Coyote Valley. I remember when San Jose was growing and growing and growing, and there was always Coyote Valley is going to become the next Cisco, Apple, and then through efforts, it became a public area. There are farmers on that land, but Coyote Valley is beautiful, pristine, and if we are truly serious about protecting our climate and our environment, we need to stop and think, what can we do to do that? And that is why I would like you to please support, again, your staff report and their recommendations. Thank you.
Peter Ortiz, followed by Paul Soto.
Hello, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I kindly ask you to please vote to approve the staff recommendations for the Coyote Valley General Plan amendments. The Coyote Valley ecosystem is of great importance, and its protection must be prioritized to retain the existing wildlife, the agricultural farmland, and to prevent urban sprawl. It would be a mistake to surrender Coyote Valley to an out-of-state business person with zero connection to our city or a stake in our local environment. Coyote Valley is a treasure, and its natural beauty is worth more than building a warehouse that will pay workers less than a livable wage to the Ohlone tribe. And it's time that the original inhabitants of this land.
Paul Soto. Paul, go ahead.
Yes, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. One of the joys that my father had, he retired from IBM down there in Coyote Valley, and was that he would come home and he had a smile on his face. I remember when he told me, and he said, "I'm working in the same field that I used to pick fruit when I was a little boy," and that was like a revelation to him. You know, that's how connected we are to the orchards around here. Is that our identity is directly connected to it, and so the test of the city's moral character is being tested right now. Do you believe that you have the right to trade for business and profit that which people identify their very being with?
Back to the council.
All right, first council member is Councilmember Jimenez, who's not here, so Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone who commented tonight, and I also want to thank staff for their work on this issue. I didn't know I was going to be first, so
Congratulations.
Not prepared for that. This item is a difficult one for me. I have hiked both the east and west ranges surrounding Coyote Valley and find it to be very beautiful and peaceful and have many fond experiences, recollections from there. Not least seeing the checker spot butterfly learning what miner's lettuce is, and frankly laughing at my son who was scared of a tired old bull one day on a hike. It's a beautiful area and it's an important green resource for those of us who are urban dwellers. In addition, of course, I think we all agree it is critical to wildlife and to flood protection. So because of that, I have zero interest in seeing the area paved over for warehouses. However, as a commenter tonight stated, warehouses are not the only issue at stake tonight. There are numerous property owners who have a stake in that area, and we have heard from many of them. So some of you may know, I was born and raised in North Dakota, which is a rural area with many farmers. And I have extended family members who have farmed and do farm. And my uncle actually this year, his entire feed corn crop was ruined. So I know that farming is not a lucrative business, and it is a very risky one, especially these days and at small scale. So I want to thank the mayor and my colleagues for their memo. Perhaps some of their ag tourism ideas from that memo and from the staff's recommendation could work. However, if we want to preserve Coyote Valley, I agree with those tonight who said that they deserve to be paid a fair price for their land if we want to preserve it. So I will let the memo writers make their motion, and then I would actually ask if they could include a recommendation as well to come back to the Transportation and Environment Committee in 6 months with a report on funding options or opportunities to purchase the properties, as we have done already in Coyote Valley for some other property owners, if we want to preserve that. I'd also like to make just a couple of other points. I think in the study that is to come, which I assume will pass, I think it's important to involve the property owners to a greater degree than to date. Somebody mentioned that they're a property owner in the area and they've had a total of 6 minutes of public comment, and that's all that they've had, other than obviously meeting with us. We need to address their concerns, and they are valid concerns in the upcoming process. We can't just dismiss the issue of viability of agriculture. We have had several reports that they have submitted that demonstrate that commercial agriculture is not economically feasible. So perhaps some combination of ag tourism and commercial agriculture could be viable, but I don't know that we know that yet. Also, I'm interested, I know this study talks about PD zoning for part of the property, although the study is going to cover all of the property east of Monterey Road, and I'm interested in expanding that PD zoning for all of the properties east of Monterey Road. So those are my comments. I have one more. Would like to ask if an inclusion of potential use of larger properties for solar farms could also be included in the motion that's made. There was an article in the Mercury News over the weekend, some of you may have seen it, about how solar facilities and agriculture uses can be combined. And perhaps that could be something that we could even look at for San Jose Clean Energy in promoting locally sourced renewable energy as part of the preservation of Coyote Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jimenez.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and was jotting down some of the asks as it relates to the motion. I have some questions, but I think that some of those may be included, and so at least in the motion I'll make. So I just wanted to first thank every single person, organization that has contributed to the conversation around Coyote Valley, from the longstanding landowners, to District 2 residents who care deeply about this space, as well as to residents all around San Jose, and of course, many of the environmental folks that show up time and again as it relates to these topics. Excuse me. I also want to say thank you to the mayor. I know I'm not sure where he is, but appreciate his leadership on the issue, and his staff has consistently been worked in a good collaborative nature with my team as it relates to this issue. Special thank you to Helen Chapman from my team, who really has, in my mind, kept Coyote Valley front and center during my time in office, so I very much appreciate that. What I would also like to say is that, I think about just some of the differences that have been expressed as it relates to the future of the valley and what people want to see there, what people think could go there, and things of that nature. And although there is some disagreement on how to best utilize the land, at least in my mind, I think it's clear to me that one thing we all agree on is really the inherent worth of the land and the important role that it plays in the future of our city. And I think this is evidenced by the 30-plus years of conversations, meetings, policy work, and voter efforts. And today, as you all know, we again lift up the area and its future to say that we as a city move forward with the spirit of preservation for our collective future, for the animals, and for our environmental resilience. Now, there have been some disputes over whether farming is possible in Coyote Valley. I've had many of those conversations with many of the landowners and some of the environmental folks. And what I've learned in just listening to everyone is that different experts say different things. I think this morning during closed session, we got some information about what some opinions are of different experts. And it was striking to me that in one case, two different folks from one university said different things as it relates to the viability of agriculture. And the other thing that I think has stood out to me is just the way it's been described to me by some of the landowners, or actually one landowner specifically, the gentleman that's standing up in the back, Mr. Sasso. I think he's explained it to me very aptly and really described farming as spokes on a wheel, and each spoke representing a critical component to make agriculture viable. Spokes such as water, a market, labor force, and certainly I've never farmed in my life, but the analogy seems apt to me. I think it really painted a picture for me as to what's needed to get some of the stuff off the ground. Now, recognizing that the current conditions for agricultural use, I'm sure, can be improved. I think even the most ardent environmentalists would say, yeah, we can do better to make it possible, more possible than it currently is. I do believe that we as city leaders, environmental leaders, and of course landowners have the ability to make it so through a variety of mechanisms that can provide a conducive environment for such endeavors such as farming. And I think that through our actions today, we create a future in which those spokes on that proverbial wheel are amended, are built, and are fostered so that way we have a resilient future for our community. And I think it takes very purposeful effort, and I think today what the city's doing is pointing in a particular direction as to where we want to see Coyote Valley in a much more definite way than we have in the past. Lastly, let me just say that during the course of my many meetings with the landowners, I've come to see the eastern side of Monterey Road as uniquely different in that uses are varied. And I think as anyone that's read the memo, we need to conduct a study, and I'm certainly supportive of that, to determine which uses are appropriate. And the language in the memo, I'm sure many of you noticed that it doesn't have an exact timeline for this study since we need the resources to conduct the study to hire a consultant. But my expectation is that the money for the study will be found, the study will occur, and we will have all the appropriate conversations in partnership. And I'll say that again, in partnership with the landowners on the eastern side of the Monterey corridor, because I, like many of you that have stated, do believe that it is the southern gateway to the city, and I want to make sure that all the efforts my office is putting in, all the efforts of the city to really make that a corridor we can all be proud of, I think is going to really take the effort of all the different stakeholders, including the landowners. So I think that's going to be very important. With that, I'll make a motion to approve our memorandum And I think to Councilmember Davis's point, I think in the memo, we did touch on it coming back before T&E, but we didn't specify when. And so I guess I defer to staff as to whether you think 6 months, I think it was, Councilmember Davis, that you had mentioned or asked for.
So it's an additional an ask about the funding options and opportunities to purchase the properties.
Okay, all right, cool.
So not for the full study.
I understand. So yeah, because okay, so yeah, I'd be open. Yeah, I think I'll include that in the memo in the motion. I think that's fine. As it relates to the solar panel and the study, as it relates to that, I think it'd be that'll sit well within some of the broader study that's going to be done. I think it's worth exploring that. If we need to be prescriptive, certainly I'll say it that my intention is to include that. So with that being said, that would be the motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Can I ask for one more, the addition of the PD zoning to cover all the properties east of Monterey, not just the part?
Yeah, I guess I'd look to Michael and some of the planning staff as it relates to that request and how it sort of ties into what's currently on the.
Sorry, so we do have a PD zoning on the portion of East Coyote that is proposed before you tonight, on the portion of East Coyote that is in the urban reserve. That's to continue allow uses that the general plan currently allows in that area. The general plan does not allow private recreation uses in the southern portion of the Monterey Highway corridor that's outside of the urban reserve. So yes, well, once the study's done, there could be recommendations that come out, I would imagine, that would recommend extending that zoning and actually adding additional uses, most likely, to that zoning, or changing it entirely to be more flexible, perhaps. But we don't have environmental clearance for the council to extend that zoning into the green belt. So that would be, involve environmental clearance, a budget, and all that. And we would recommend that be done as part of the larger study effort when we can work with the stakeholders out there and come back with recommendations on the overall zoning for the area. There will have to be a zoning per state law. We can't just have these general plan policies. We will have to bring a zoning back to council.
So I would say, given that response, Councilmember Davis, I'm not going to be including it, but I appreciate the recommendation. I did have one question as you were talking. Had forgotten. I wanted to ask you about this. So, and I'm curious as to your understanding some of the language in the memo on page 3. Actually, on page 2, it's essentially 1B. And if you go to towards the end of the paragraph, it says, and it talks about the PD zoning, I believe. And it says, also clarify that this study will apply to all parcels within the city of San Jose within a designated depth. So my understanding of that, the way I thought when I signed on to this, is the Monterey corridor, obviously going from there sort of back in that depth. Is that going to be part of the study, or do you have something in mind as it relates to the depth of where the study is sort of going to encompass and what we're going to look at?
So staff, I think that's...
Or your interpretation of what we wrote, I guess, is what I'm curious about.
Well, yeah, when we talked about doing a study, we didn't define a depth. I think that would be determined as part of the study about what's appropriate in terms of maybe more flexibility. Is it all the land between Monterey Highway and the creek? Is it more limited towards the areas that are right up against Monterey Highway? That sort of would be figured out as part of the study.
All right, so that's the answer I prefer to hear from you, just because I don't think I suspect there's folks out there, like maybe Mr. Sasso, other folks that would like certain parameters, but we'll tackle those when we get there during the course of the study, I assume. Okay, all right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. First, I want to thank all of the speakers, both present in the chambers and also virtually. And in particular, I want to thank Mr. Sasso for his personal tour of the Coyote Valley area. Thank you for driving me and my policy aide around so we could experience and understand what was going on in Coyote Valley. I also want to thank all of the landowners who I've met with some in person and some Zoom, and I share your thoughts and your concerns. But recently, the council voted to commit the city to become carbon neutral by 2030. We will not reach these goals if we do not take bold steps now and preserve the Coyote Valley. Expanding our urban growth even further into the Coyote Valley contributes to the issue of urban sprawl and increased greenhouse gas emission. It's time to walk the walk. Silicon Valley was once known as the Valley of Heart's Delight, as many have said today. We have a proud agricultural tradition here in San Jose, and approving staff's recommendation ensures that agriculture also has a future in San Jose. The Coyote Valley is a gem in the South Bay and one of the very few parts of San Jose that hasn't been touched by urban sprawl. And whoever sang Joni Mitchell's song, it's now an earworm in my head, that I will continue to carry with me: pave paradise, put up a parking lot. We can't have that. The preservation of this unique and important resource needs to be a priority. The land in Coyote Valley has been designated for residential and industrial for decades. We heard the stories earlier. But we have not seen any significant development on the land in that time. Redesignated the land in North Coyote Valley to agriculture represents an opportunity for this land to be productive while also helping the city to meet our environmental goals. And I understand there's differing of opinions related to the ability to farm and make a living, and I also appreciate how difficult it is to be a farmer. I want to share with you some of my background. In a prior life, I actually worked at Benich Farms. Many of you old-timers up there know where Benich Farms is or was, on McKean Road, and it was famous for apricots and cherries. I worked there but lived in San Martin and drove every day down Santa Teresa to pick up Bailey Road to connect to McKean. I marveled at the beauty of the Coyote Valley then, and I marvel and respect its beauty today. Today, I vote to preserve the Coyote Valley to achieve our carbon neutral goal. I am proud to have co-authored the memo along with the mayor, Councilmember Jimenez, Cohen, and Perales. I vote today to protect this area for our birds and wildlife. I vote today to protect the Coyote Valley so that it may be enjoyed by our children and their children for many generations to come. It is unquestionably the right thing to do. I appreciate the concerns of the property owners in the Coyote Valley, and like Councilmember Jimenez, I commit to including them in discussions and debates as we go forward. I agree that they should be properly compensated, and doing so may be a difficult process, but it is something we should work towards. There are undeniable environmental and social benefits in preserving the land in Coyote Valley, but I'm excited to see the idea around environmental credits and how that might benefit the property owners and in the end result in the preservation of the land. So I have some questions, and one really is about the environmental credits. How do you see those working? How do you see the landowners benefiting from those? What will be the process, or when will you come back to us with the idea on how the environmental credits might benefit the property owners?
Yeah, so the way the credits are, so they're a work in progress, but the concept that's being developed, and so there's been some time spent on this actually, is that credits would be purchased by developers who need environmental mitigation that are building in the more urban part of the city, and they could buy credits as a way to mitigate environmental impacts. And those credits would go into a bank. They'd most likely be managed by a third party. And then those credits, the money from those credits that's generated from those credits could be used for one of three things. It could be used to restore land that's already been purchased by various open space entities. It could be used to purchase additional land that to preserve it for climate sequestration by different open space agencies. It could also be used to provide to purchase scenic easements or development rights by private property owners that have other uses of their land that they want to retain, ag or otherwise. Sort of recognizing the value of that land for carbon sequestration and their willingness to preserve it, so that there would essentially be a way to purchase development rights from private property owners. So that this is a body of work that at this point is being led by Santa Clara Open Space Authority and a consultant. So we'd have to check with them on the schedule, but I anticipate we'd have something to report back in probably about 6 months of where we're at with that, is my guess. We do have a staff person on our side that will be taking this work over. It's our climate smart staff person in the new part of the year. So that's sort of an estimate of, I think, when we would have something to report on. We could report back on the work that we're doing sooner than that, but I think to actually bring back something for council consideration would probably be more than 6 months.
Do you envision, that sounds, just to be frank, a little pie in the sky and a little not realistic for the landowners. If I'm sitting there up in the top of the chambers and listening to sequestration credits and timing and all that, it sounds like it really depends on a developer who has the need, then the money goes into the bank, and the quote-unquote bank, and then a bank is distributed. How does someone like Mr. Sasso benefit from that?
I think one of you have to have a willing you'd have to have a willing property owner that agrees they do not want to develop their land and they're willing to maintain it in a more open space or agricultural fashion. And if they were, then there would be an opportunity for someone to purchase essentially the climate sequestration or the development rights, or a scenic easement on their property, essentially some kind of easement on their property, probably a climate easement on their property, and that there would be an exchange of money through that. Now, we don't anticipate the amount of money is still TBD. I don't think, to be frank, it's going to generate the amount of money that one might hope from building homes or industrial land, but it would be some form of compensation above what the land is worth as just straight agriculture.
Okay, so when we're meeting with the property owners in relation to the eastern part of the Coyote Valley or any of the other landowners, I would highly encourage us to engage them in the credit conversation, because I'm a simple person, but I understand math, and I understand property values and what that might mean, and I'm not connecting exactly how that's going to work out for them. So I want to be fair to them. I am not hesitant in any way in voting in support of the memo that we have, but I want to be fair to the property owners, and I want to make sure that their voices are heard and that we embrace them in conversation and discussion as much as possible. Okay, so that's that question. Nora, I do have a question for you, and I did tell you I was going to ask you this question, but it's come up from a few people, mostly the lawyers in the room, who have talked about this being a taking. In your opinion, does the general plan amendment constitute a taking?
Thank you, Council Member. We have concluded that it does not, based on applicable case law.
Is that it?
Yes. If you want a further recitation, Vera's on the phone. She can answer, but the short answer is we've concluded it has not.
Vera, could you go into just slightly more detail than that? Thank you, Nora.
comments here. But it was a letter that you recently received from Shoot Mahali. I believe it was on the 10th, perhaps. And it was on November 10th. It also opines that it is not a taking. And I agree with the reasoning in that memo. And we have found similar case law, same and similar case law, and interpreted similar.
Okay, so even though I probably received that letter, I haven't read it, so I'll have to go back and read it. I think that was the end of my questions. But again, I do want to thank everyone for being here and commenting, and for the time that you've spent with me, showing your properties and your love for the area and the history that you have for that area as well. It is not lost on me, and I've spent a lot of time down there in my younger years, really enjoying it when I worked at Benich Farms, which is not that far away. So with that, I'm conclude my comments. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Mahan.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thanks to staff for all of the work, and to all of our members of the public who came out to speak tonight. Appreciate all of the commentary and great dialogue amongst my colleagues here. I got in the line to speak a little late, so I feel like many of my comments were made, but I also had the pleasure of a tour with Mr. Sasso and a tour with the OSA, and enjoyed seeing the valley from both perspectives. I grew up down in Watsonville in a farming town and loved the opportunity to be out in nature every day. Also have a great appreciation for how difficult farming is. And I know it is a really challenging industry. So I guess the comment I just wanted to add, I think Council members Davis and Foley asked most of my questions or expressed some of my sentiments, but I think we've got the right end goal in mind here, and I'll be also joining in the vote and appreciate the memo from the mayor and colleagues on the study of the Monterey corridor. I do think as we move forward here, and there is this loss of value to moving forward for landowners, it is critical that we do our utmost to be fair to those landowners and to figure out economically viable uses of the land. And I think we'd all prefer that be agriculture, low impact tourism. I think many of the questions I wanted to ask have been already asked, but I guess I'll ask staff, what can we do even just between now and February to ensure that we are getting feedback from landowners early and often, even as we're just in the initial stages of conceiving this future study?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely willing to be to meet with the property owners. I think we won't have really undertaken a whole lot of work yet on the study itself, but at least we can get their thoughts on what the scope might be, for example, which would help us then develop a budget, which I think the memo says come back in February with a budget. So that would be helpful for that process.
Great. I'd certainly like to see us do that, and that sounds good. I think it's critical that as we move forward here, that we bring people together and that we really truly engage our stakeholders and listen to all of our stakeholders. And ultimately, the test of this in my mind is that we preserve the land for future generations and protect the environment, but that if we're saying that we can do this because agriculture can be viable, then we had better do the work to make it viable. And if we can't, then we need to admit that we were wrong and do something else. So I've met with enough of the landowners to feel quite strongly that we need to do right by them and really deeply engage them in the process. Michael, on this question about the climate easement that Councilmember Foley dug into a little bit, you mentioned that we would be able to offer some value above the value of the land for agriculture. Do you have any sense of what kind of value can be captured in downtown development that would, like, what are we talking here?
Yeah, so I mean, we're not really talking about transfer development rights. So I just want to say that specifically, and also responding to Councilmember Foley, At this point, it's a concept that then the math has still to be generated. So we don't have the math yet. So that's important. I understand the property owners are going to want to understand that. I do too. And so that's sort of the next body of work that would be undertaken, is understand like, well, what are we actually talking about here, and how much money could we actually expect to be generated from this program? One aspect of the program I didn't mention is that there could be corporations that are wanting to be good corporate citizens that have net zero GHG emission goals, and this would be an opportunity for them to purchase climate credits, which then could be used to buy sort of climate easements, if you will, or restore land or buy additional land. That's another opportunity. But yeah, the math part of it still needs to be developed.
Okay. And then I was interested to hear that in some of the portions of land governed by the county, that there's more flexible use, is something I heard in the staff report. And I was just hoping you could expand on that a little bit and tell us what if anything we've learned from the county at this point, and how we can partner with them as we sort of try to figure out how to rationalize land use moving forward and support some of these agritourism uses we're discussing.
Yeah, I mean, so we've been working really closely in the county throughout this whole process, as well as through the Santa Clara agricultural plan process. So there are a number of uses. My understanding is they allow more permanent farm worker housing. They allow events and retail sales associated to farmland, which our code currently does not allow. And other, I can't give you specifics. I mean, we can bring Michael Meehan in if we want from the county. He can give you more specifics, but there are other types of more commercial businesses that support agriculture that would be allowed that our code does not allow. So ours are very limited to more ag type uses, and open space uses, and some very limited rec uses. But so we agree. We think it's time to align it with the county and really allow more flexibility there. Yeah, well, also with the goal of making ag more viable and preserving it for those type of uses, not with the idea of paving it over.
Right. And then what would be the timeline? I guess my fear, and the reason I asked the question, is we may do some initial research, say, oh, the county's done some things that we really like, but we just don't have time to continue to evolve this. We've got all these other things that we're worried about. We've got all this development in downtown, so it just ends up taking 3, 4, 5, it just drags on. Are we able to, if we want to conform to what they're doing, are there strategies for accelerating that? Do we have to wait for another general plan review?
No. This is the zoning code work. So the general plan. Like if the council moves forward with the recommendation tonight, you don't need to do a general plan update. There's no need for another 4-year review. It's just a matter of getting it into our basically our inbox of things that the zoning ordinance team would do. So we'll have to figure out, when we could tackle that. I would think that that's something we could tackle next calendar year. But I have to, I don't want to overly promise. We have to sit down and sort of figure that out with all the other things, not just related to Coyote Valley, because we actually have a number of actions on Coyote Valley and other things that we're doing. But I think it's something we can initiate next calendar year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for the presentation, all the work up till now. And I just want to thank all the members of the public on all sides of the issue who came out this evening to express your heartfelt views. And I'm really hopeful that we can come together and move forward in a way that is fair to everyone. So thank you all again.
Thank you. Councilmember Pross.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And I'll start with echoing some of the thanks to our city staff, especially you, Michael, and Robert as well, for getting us here, and all the speakers, those that are here with us and that joined over Zoom, and the stakeholders that we know that are property owners out there in the Valley, and those that are advocates for our community and open space specifically. We've set out for quite some time to be able to carry out the vision of preserving Coyote Valley, and that has been described several times, as we know tonight, a gem remaining here in the Santa Clara Valley. I understand that this has been a difficult discussion, especially for property owners who have expressed their concerns, especially for the future of their properties. I also have to thank Mr. Sasso for the invitation, and had an opportunity to go out there and visit a number of the properties and be able to have a better understanding of the area. I understand concerns and know now that many of individuals there had parcels of these land in their families for many generations and have had varying plans for what they may want to have done or had hoped to do with the properties there. I'm supportive, as I signed on to the memo in regards to specifically the east corridor there, Monterey Road, being able to explore additional compatible uses. And I know there are a lot of discussions around the valuation that we've had now here on the dais, and I sympathize and can support the motion that includes Councilmember Davis's amendment. But ultimately, I think what we are doing today is not about economic development, and that should be clear. It's not an economic development decision. It is rather a land use decision. And as Councilmember Foley, I think, questioned, and when we got, albeit a quick answer, I think the reality is though we've also understood some of the legal parameters of that decision and the authorities that we as a council have to be able to make here. We make these types of land use decisions all the time that happen to affect individual property values, and we need to do so by determining the best use of them for both the city and the community as a whole. They're not all done on an individual basis of what may be the best economic viability for an individual landowner, and that doesn't make it an easy decision, but ultimately is one that we have to make here collectively. And I do feel that unfortunately we have suffered too long in our city for the effects that we've had on urban sprawl. And I think here we've had, and we've made a statement for a while, but we really can stop and draw the line in the Coyote Valley area. There is a lot that Coyote Valley has to offer and that we can preserve there, specifically including our wildlife ecosystem. And I actually would like to ask a confirmation from Councilmember Jimenez, maker of the motion, that the study we'll conduct will also include consideration of that wildlife connectivity, especially as we know crossing that Monterey corridor there in the 101 area.
Yes.
Thank you. I also, understand and appreciate the analysis and the study that have been provided by the county, and hearing from various agricultural operators that agriculture is not only viable, but it is needed throughout the area, and recognizing there are challenges to that. As Councilmember Jimenez pointed out, I think from Mr. Sasso's description of a spoke, it's more than just the land itself or land use. There are a lot of variables that go into making agriculture viable and work, and look forward to that continued discussion and further analysis on that. And with that, that's why I will be supporting the motion that we have here, and was happy to be able to co-sign onto the memo with the mayor and council members Jimenez, Cohen, and Foley, doing what I think is best for our city. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen?
Thank you. And just like I want to echo the thanks that everyone else has given to staff and to all the members of the public for their passionate testimony tonight. One thing is clear, that no matter who was speaking of the area, no matter which, I'm not convinced that there's really two sides in this issue, but just various opinions about how to proceed. But it's clear that everyone loves the land and loves Coyote Valley, and it's really important to figure out how to best preserve the area for future generations to continue to enjoy it. Councilmember Foley said really a lot about the environmental importance of this area and gave most of the arguments for it. One thing that wasn't mentioned was the importance of the watershed in that area as well. And I know, the mayor's talked before about, learning about the importance, especially when we had flooding, about how important it is to preserve that watershed around Coyote Creek. It's also important to know that the water level is pretty close to the surface in that area. So it's really important that we don't pave over too much of it, that we have the way to percolate water back into the aquifer under Coyote Valley. That's why these investigations of how we use that land preserves the ability to continue to have that benefit of that watershed in that area. That also is another thing that will be helpful for proceeding with agricultural uses, is that more readily available water there. There's a lot of connections between a lot of things that we do as a council as we proceed with trying to purify water and recharge our aquifers. We'll be recharging the aquifers, particularly in the Coyote Valley area, and all those things will help in the future the accessibility of water and helping to make that land more viable for these kinds of uses. So I think that's important just to also talk about some of those benefits of that land. I think a lot of questions were asked about the climate credit approach or the credit approach. I'm not going to ask more questions about it, except just to say I'm always skeptical about that, partly for a variety of reasons. And I think we talked about this a little bit last week in our climate smart discussion, how to balance how many credits are the right amount to do, and how we move forward with development across the entire city that's not going to rely on credits. If we're going to get to our goal of carbon neutrality by 2030, credits are going to have to be phased out over time. We're not going to be able to tolerate any developments that are going to deviate from that ultimate goal. It's important to have those credits early on and incentivizing and moving people in this direction. But I'm not convinced that that's a good long-term strategy. And I would hope that we have lots of partners in helping us find ways to compensate and purchase land where we need to. I think that just like we've done for other parts of Coyote Valley, we can find ways. And I'm glad Councilmember Davis talked about that in her amendment to the motion. So I'm happy to support the motion. I'm glad that I was part of the group on the memo because it helped me understand the issues a lot better moving into this. And I know that was part of the problem with the Planning Commission. While I'm not here to defend them or say anything about them, there's a lot of depth of information you need to make a smart decision on that. And I know that I think that several members of that commission expressed that they just didn't feel like they had the information that they needed to recommend one way or the other. And I think we as a council have more information than they probably had, and have had the benefit of folks on our staffs working on this a lot longer than some of them were exposed to it. So I know that there was some skepticism there that they really were ready on some of the issues that we've delved into today. So I'm happy to support the motion and glad that we'll be moving forward with protection of this important space.
Thank you. Councilmember Rennes?
Thank you. I also want to just thank everybody for coming to City Hall or staying on the line for how many ever hours you've stayed on the line to express the opinions that you had, either to support some of the landowners or to support some of the environmentalists. Either way, I heard a common theme from everybody, and that was just a love and passion for this land for so many different reasons. And so I think it's wonderful that we have such a varied group of people who see the importance and value this land. And it would be wonderful to teach that to future generations, to value the land that you inherit. I heard loud and clear there's an agricultural legacy with some of these landowners, and I heard the passion in your voice just as well as I heard the passion in the voices of a lot of our environmentalists and advocates to protect this land, to keep it. And one of the things that really struck me that somebody said, and they said it a lot more eloquently than I'm going to say it right now, but this person said, you like it, you want it, you buy it. And I thought, this is absolutely a really simple way of looking at things. There is a value in this land, and landowners should be compensated for it. I was absolutely supportive of the motion that Megan Fluke made during our general plan task force to support staff recommendations last year. It feels like so long ago. And one of the things that I, as I was listening to everybody, all the public comments, I guess I didn't realize how this impacted the farmers and the landowners, and that agricultural legacy that they bring with them. And it made me think back to my own family. My parents come from a farm in Mexico where it's very arid. And one of their greatest desires was to purchase a piece of land in Mexico and retire there and farm. I don't know, it sounded like a lot of work. It was a lot of work. And my dad straddled between, once he retired, he straddled between living here in San Jose and living in home state of Zacatecas. And he would constantly replace irrigation systems and try many different things to just really work that land. And he finally got to that. And he planted, there's a specific kind of chili that you dry out in sheds, and these huge sheds that you have near some of these farm towns. And he almost got to the end of this whole cycle of, from watering and growing and having folks pick and bring it back in, take it to one of these huge sheds that are created for this purpose to dry out these chilies, only to find that weeks or months later, I can't remember exactly how long it took to dehydrate these chilies, but they molded, and all of that work was just thrown out the window. Obviously, my dad didn't rely on that money for living costs, but it was a passion of his, and it was hard to see that in his face. It's like a little boy who just lost his dog. It hurt in a way that I hadn't seen my dad hurt, as I always saw him as a very strong man. And so I understand that piece of the land use, and I just want to let those farmers and those landowners know that everybody's perspective is being heard today. There is a value in your land, whether it's with this agricultural tourism or the bobcats that are crossing. And I'm glad you mentioned this, Councilmember Perales. And I think it was Mark Lanford, and no, I'm going to say his name incorrectly. And he sent me a map of the crossings of the bobcats from one side of the 101 and one to the other, and back and forth from Monterey Highway. And it is amazing to see the kind of wildlife connectivity that is out there, that is happening every day, unbeknownst to us who are sitting here at City Hall trying to dodge traffic. And that wildlife is trying to dodge traffic just as well. And it's because of them and that we want to make sure that we continue to hold as much land as we can for them, and so that generations to come can continue to appreciate the wildlife next to us, as well as the land and the different land uses. So I look forward to seeing how this study looks, the potential for the land to be used differently, and of course for landowners and farmers to be compensated. And I heard this loud and clear from environmentalists when I met with them. My team mostly met with some folks, but I met with one, and they, loud and clear, they said, they want to make sure that landowners are compensated fairly. It was one thing that I really walked away, well, aside from the bobcat crossings, which I was really just enamored with. But one of the things I heard loud and clear, and so in response to that speaker who said, you like it, you want it, you buy it, and absolutely, I think this is a path forward for that, to explore options to do it. I'm really interested in that climate credit, and I know it hasn't been worked out just yet, but it sounds fabulous. It sounds like this is an opportunity to create some of that money to purchase some of this land in the same way that Post and the city of San Jose has done together to purchase the lands that have already been purchased with Measure T. So anyways, I'm obviously going to support the motion on the floor. I also want to thank my fellow council members who've been advocating for Coyote Valley for a really long time. Thank you for always making sure that we do the right thing for everybody involved when it comes to our land and its best use for our land. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry that I missed some of the earlier dialogue from my colleagues, but I appreciate that a lot of good points have already been made from what I've heard.
It was all brilliant.
I'm sorry?
It was all brilliant.
It was all brilliant. Yeah, it's always better when I'm not here. I want to just thank a couple folks who I think haven't been thanked yet, because I think just about everybody else has been. But I really want to thank a couple of folks who have been really spearheading an effort for many years now to try to bring folks together. And yes, to compensate landowners, but to be able to preserve a different kind of future for Coyote Valley. And that is the CEO of Open Space Authority, Andrea McKenzie, and the CEO of Post, Peninsula Open Space Trust, Walter Moore. And I've appreciated working with them since roughly 2016 in very long meetings we were having to try to understand best how to move forward. I also want to thank, just on my own team, Joel Devalcourt and Mackenzie Mossing and Kelly Klein, who've been working hard on this. I have a bit of a personal connection to land down Coyote Valley. I've spent many, many hours in my youth cycling down Monterey and Santa Teresa and up to Uvas and Clara reservoirs, and it's a beautiful area, and I've enjoyed every one of those hours riding with friends. And I appreciate many of the concerns that have been raised by many of the landowners prior to this meeting to me and to many of my colleagues, and now, of course. And certainly, I can appreciate their concerns are valid. But I think it's important for us to recognize, at least as a legal matter, and I think much has been asserted in the past about whether or not this is a takings. And my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Nora, but the fact that there is a rezoning or a change in land use designation that merely diminishes the value of a land is not a taking under Fifth Amendment jurisprudence. Is that right?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so really the question is whether it's a mere diminution or taking of all value, and I think it is a mere diminution. Although I'm not an expert in agriculture, and I don't pretend to know whether or not agriculture is economically viable. It wouldn't surprise me if either were or not. There are, in fact, other uses, and if I'm not mistaken, Michael, that there is an opportunity, for example, to build, nothing else, a ranch house on an ag land. Is that right?
Yeah, the code does allow you to build a house, and depending, I mean, the issue is going to be how far can you subdivide, how small could you subdivide the property, right? So now it's 20 acres minimum. We're proposing 40. There are properties that are very smaller than that you could build a house on.
Right. So clearly there's value, and it's not the value that landowners hoped for or wanted, and I can understand certainly their disappointment, and it's not unreasonable that they want some compensation for the diminution of the value of the land. I'm going to try not to bore everybody with a 2-minute version of history as I understand it, but the first owners of this land were the Ohlone, and they did not get compensated when the land was taken from them. Subsequent to that, we know that there were rancherias that were owned by rancheros, owned by Mexican residents. And again, I mentioned my personal connection to land. One of those families that owned land in Coyote Valley, and south of there it was the Ortega family, from which my mom is descended. And I know that Jose Francisco Ortega had land grant there and subsequently lost it when his grandchildren lost it somehow, and there are a lot of competing stories about how that happened. But what we do know what happened was that in 1848, there was a Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo between the United States and Mexico, in which all Mexicans were promised that their land grants would be honored. And we know that that treaty was violated. And the treaty was violated repeatedly, and a lot of Mexican residents and families lost their land as a result. And there's certainly plenty in my family who believe that's how our Ortega ancestors lost their land. And I appreciate that landowners who have been here in Coyote Valley have been there, in many cases, many generations. And they have every reasonable expectation to be treated fairly. And that is true. They do. They should be. And I'm confident we're going to do everything we can to be as fair as possible. But it seems to me that as we think about what reasonable expectations there are for development in that land, I think it's important for us at least to look at some of the history that Michael described over the last 40 years, going back to 1975, when that very first, the 75 or 77, Michael, the very first general plan in the city.
It's called General Plan 75, but it was approved in 1976.
Got
Don't
it.
ask me
okay.
why.
Somewhere in that, thank you. It was under Janet Gray Hayes, I believe. And at that time, the entire area was essentially designated for agriculture, is that right?
Ag, open space, and some areas I think had limited, had some rural residential in it, but it was not intended for urbanization.
Yeah. So that was our very first general plan. And certainly it's changed since then. In the 80s, we saw clearly there were different plans for development and lots of dreams of an Apple headquarters and Tandem, who knows what else. But, you know, I can remember coming on the council in 2007. We had a new mayor then, Chuck Reed, and council majority and Mayor Reed, and I was part of that majority, said, we're not very interested in having housing development in Coyote. And that was a major watershed. I know we had a lot of upset landowners when we were making it clear we weren't going there. And then in 2011, I was head of a general plan task force, and we reaffirmed the protection of the Mid-Coyote Urban Reserve with triggers that pretty much nobody believed would ever get met to protect Mid-Coyote against development. And I guess I'm reciting all this because this is not a case in which anybody is pulling the rug out from anyone. These were all public decisions that were made in public hearings. There was nobody playing, misleading or deceiving about intentions. So in 2015, we removed 15,000 planned jobs from North Coyote Valley during the 4-year review. That was in my first year in my mayor's role as mayor. In 2017, the regional agencies, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and ABAG, all got together and launched Plan Bay Area 2040, which they created priority conservation areas throughout Coyote Valley. Priority conservation areas meaning there would not be any significant development in those PCAs. And those were regional agencies that made these decisions after many public hearings among the 9 Bay Area counties. In 2018, of course, we passed Measure T. The voters voted overwhelmingly for bond funding to purchase land for the preservation of the open space. We had approval of the Climate Smart Plan that made it very clear that development out in Coyote be the last thing we should do if we really want to achieve our climate goals. And then the new state VMT rules kicked in, the vehicle mile travels rules, which even if we allowed development, would probably make development incredibly cost prohibitive, just paying the VMT fees. And then the following year, we had AB 948, state designation of Coyote as a natural resource of statewide significance. And then in that same year, we sent this direction off to the task force at Coyote. So I guess I just want to be really clear to the landowners who feel betrayed in some way that if there has been a disagreement with the city of San Jose about the direction of Coyote Valley, this is not a recent phenomenon. It goes all the way back to Janet Gray Hayes. And there are many of us who have been clear about our desire to protect the area against development. And I appreciate the desire to be treated fairly and to be compensated. There are certainly countervailing concerns that we have, and I think the greatest of all of the environmental concerns is the one that was articulated by Councilmember Cohen, which is about our drinking water. There's one critical natural resource as we are enduring another year of drought, and yes, we'll continue to endure many years of drought in the future. The fact that you've got a very shallow underground aquifer, which is a critical water supply for our region, and half of the rechargeable open space in the entire Silicon Valley resides right there in Coyote. And we know if you develop anything that's industrial on top of a shallow aquifer, you are almost certainly going to be polluting that water. That's water we all depend on. And so, regardless of what you think about environmental issues, I think most of us understand the importance of clean drinking water. And these are pretty compelling needs, in addition to all the other important environmental concerns. So I want to be honest with folks, because I think there may be some who walk away from this believing somehow or another that we're going to pull a rabbit out of a hat with a lot of money for landowners to compensate them. And I frankly don't think that's going to happen. I think OSA is going to continue to do their best to negotiate with those who can't use the land for anything else. And we'll certainly be partners in doing all we can to try to secure state funding, try to secure credits from developers elsewhere in the city to try to supplement those dollars. And we'll try to do so. We'll certainly do so in good faith, and we'll do all we can to treat folks fairly. But there's simply no pot of money that the city has to go pay everyone what they think their land is worth. And that's not the way it works in land use in this city or any other city. We make land use decisions all the time that diminish the value of land. And we do so within the law and within the Constitution. So I appreciate the very difficult, challenging decisions that we have all faced over the last several years. I think we're finally on the right path, and we're going to try to do all we can to deal fairly with those landowners who feel they deserve something better. But I want to ensure that nobody feels misled, either about our actions today or about the history, because the history to me is fairly clear. All right, we have a motion. Is there any other comments? Let's vote.
Jimenez,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Crosco, Davis,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. All right, are we going back to the, I think, item 3.7, the city roadmap?
Yes.
First quarter 2021 update. We do have a presentation thanks to all the senior staff who waited patiently.
So, good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, members of the public, and city staff. Dolan Beckel, Interim Deputy City Manager here. While my colleagues are setting up, we're going to skip the introductions. Each individual introduce themselves when they present their section in the interest of time. So we'll get right into the presentation. Our topics we're going to discuss briefly today are, first of all, just a quick background on the San Jose City roadmap. It's been a while since we've been in front of council. The second is we'll give a status update on quarter one and a view into quarter two, planned and actual objectives and key results for two key enterprise priorities. We'll talk about current and next steps, and be happy to answer any questions and answers and feedback since this is the first time. This is actually the first quarter city roadmap update we've brought to council. So in March of 2021, the City Council approved the fiscal year 2021-2022 city roadmap shown here. The purpose of the city roadmap is to focus the city on our most vital change initiatives. Currently, the city finds ourselves delivering on the COVID-19 response, the COVID-19 recovery, major change initiatives, and core city services all in parallel. So given the finite delivery capacity across the city and our partners, the prioritization and focus brought by the city roadmap is critical to our collective success. We are incrementally rolling out the full city roadmap status report over a period of 12 months. Today's report will be on two critical enterprise priorities, those being powered by people there at the bottom, and we'll also then be talking about the status report on COVID-19 pandemic, community, and economic recovery. This is the first time the council and our community will be hearing a quarterly report on the city roadmap using objectives and key results, also called OKRs, and we look forward to your feedback so we can iterate to improve as we fully roll out the city roadmap status report. I will now turn the presentation over to Kelly Parmley, who will be discussing Powered by People.
Mayor, council, members of the public, Kelly Parmley, Assistant Director for Human Resources, and Human Resources is the champion for the Powered by People Change Initiative, or excuse me, enterprise-wide priority. Many of you are familiar with Powered by People from several reports during the Emergency Operations Center planning and efforts. We have transitioned it from what were 4 objectives to 3 objectives that you see here, and will be the first time that you have seen them. They are extremely important and foundational. That's why they live in that bottom line of the roadmap as a foundational set of change initiatives for the enterprise-wide priority. I just very quickly want to offer up that the 3 objectives that are new: build processes that work for people, which means that we equip and empower teams with the tools and skills necessary to reimagine and redesign processes and experiences across the employee lifecycle. The second one, which is to nurture employee growth, safety, and wellness, which means that we attract, retain, and engage a diverse workforce with opportunities to thrive and serve residents while keeping employees safe and supported in a flexible work environment. The third, probably my favorite, is bust down silos to build trust and transparency, invest in interdepartmental partnerships by removing barriers, building capacity, and engaging with departments through deeply collaborative relationships. So thank you for indulging a little bit of language around those, which would be new to you. I will offer up that what you see here in terms of first quarter results are mostly green, which means we've been acting and working very, very hard for this first quarter. It also was an easy transition for us in the sense of using this process, which we have found very beneficial, in that the item in yellow was resolved several days after, such that we met the objective around 25 positions in hiring and recovery for our first quarter goals. And we used it effectively to make some decision opportunities to unstick some of our issues related to the item in red, which is to our benefit. What I will offer then is we've established key results for quarter 2, which is only a few weeks away in terms of ending by the end of December, all of which are related to not just human resources and our responsibilities, but also public works, IT, and the Office of Emergency and Management in terms of making sure we're supporting our workforce as we move forward, not only for recovery and supporting recovery, but also our core service areas. And you'll see a variety of results here that are both stretch goals or objectives for us, but also ones that will lay a great foundation for Q3 and Q4 of the remaining part of the fiscal year. With that, I'm going to turn it over to, sorry for that quick transition. There you go. To Rosalind.
Great, thank you so much, Kelly. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, members of our community. Rosalind Huey, Deputy City Manager. So this enterprise priority is really all about lifting up those who have been most burdened and impacted by the pandemic and in particular, those residents who live in zip codes 95110, 95111, 95112, 95116, 95122, and 95127. So the COVID-19 pandemic community and economic recovery enterprise priority organizes around 7 initiatives, and they are shown on the bottom of this slide. And we have 3 main objectives, and they are investing in our most vulnerable residents, families, small businesses, and our nonprofits, empowering our community with the resources that build resiliency, and stabilizing and improving equitable outcomes for all. The team is, oh, I'm sorry, I think I went too far. There we go, my apologies. So these are our OKRs for Q1 of 2021. And the team is really pleased that we were able to achieve 9 of the 13 items for Q1 goals. And I'm just gonna highlight a few of these results. First, governing the distribution of 20 million meals in the city with a total of 200 million since March of last year. Distributing 3,820 hotspots to students and residents for back-to-school digital access, and opening and operating 2 rent relief and eviction help centers, one here at City Hall and one at the Franklin McKinley School District office. You'll also see on this slide that 65% of goal was met for 3 of our items, and those are shown in yellow. Regarding emergency rental assistance, as of September 30th, the full amount of funds had not been committed due to a change in the business model from the city to state ownership. However, since that time in September, the full amount of $57 million has been committed, not yet paid out, with 71% of funds paid to 3,540 households. And there are 1,720 households awaiting payment, and we are anticipating that 100% of these emergency rental assistance round 1 funds will be paid out by the end of this month. I also want to highlight that the East Side Union Wi-Fi construction contract hit a minor timeline delay due to negotiations. However, the contract for the Independence area is being awarded in early December. And we anticipate awards for the Andrew Hill area in January, followed by the award for the Oak Grove area in February. And while the San Jose Access Hotspot Impact Report hit a minor timeline delay for release, it was actually released in last month. And so we have one red item, and this is regarding the transition 25% of food program participants to sustainable programs. And so we know that with the emergence of the Delta variant earlier this year, the administration planned for food distribution in 2022 to ensure stability of food resources, with the intention of ending dependence on the city by or before June 30th of 2022. However, more recent factors include the downward trend of the Delta variant, the local vaccination rate continuing to trend upwards, the recent vaccine availability for children ages 5 to 11, and the expansion of the vaccine booster eligibility. These positive developments require the city to be more intentional about asking our partners to better access the current and projected need, develop a plan to transition away from the city's temporary obligation of overseeing food distribution in the response phase of the pandemic, and to focus additional attention on the recovery phase and any new emerging community needs. So this slide shows the current Q2 set of OKRs, and you'll see that there are quite a few. There are a lot of items that we're hoping to achieve, and we decided to do this because we understand how important this enterprise priority is and how important it is to stretch ourselves when setting goals. And so I won't go through all of these, but obviously we are still focused on housing stabilization, small business recovery, and reemployment and workforce development. And with that, I think I'm turning it over back to Dolan.
Thanks, Rosalind. In terms of next steps, we will be bringing the objectives and key results for the Community and Economic Recovery Enterprise Parity to the task force in a little over 2 weeks for them to provide review and feedback with a lens on the community needs and their perspectives on the objectives and key results for both Q1 and Q2. We'll be returning early 2022 with our Q2 update on how we scored, red, yellow, or green, for the Q2 plans that we just reviewed with you. We admit we're a little bit behind. We'll be making adjustments to the city roadmap as appropriate, both for the November 30th American Rescue Plan, excuse the typo there, reallocation, as well as priority setting. And then we'll be developing a performance measure framework and pilot for both outcomes and performance measures. We're looking to engage with some partners who can help us do some heavy lifting for free to develop that framework for performance measures and outcomes, both at the enterprise priority level and the initiative level. And then finally, we'll be continuing to refine some terminology around the roadmap about the definition of the enterprise priorities and some of the naming of the descriptions of the initiatives. So that concludes our presentation on the actual results of Q1 and the planned results of Q2 for the objectives and key results for these two critical enterprise priorities. We're open to taking any questions, comments, and feedback, especially since we know this is the first time a citywide roadmap has ever been reported on status-wise to council and the community.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Great presentation. More importantly, great work. And I really appreciate the format and the presentation. Let's go to the public first, and we'll come back.
Paul Soto?
Yes, thank you, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. Thank you for the presentation. There's going to be, I appreciate it because within the next months, there's going to be an influx of funding. And so what my question is to you is, how are you defining equity? What are you using as a base? We need a definition. I've been asking the NORA for a legal definition so that there's an objective way that allocations of funding are met. Because without it, the word is there, but the placement of the fund becomes now subjective, and whoever has the better argument, and so if we're going to go into that area of having equity for all, we need to be able to define it.
Blair Beekman?
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. Thanks a lot for this item. It's nice to think that I think Kip should be back in town, Kip Harkness. This item was presented with like a lot of love, it seemed like, and that's what I've been trying to learn and ask about. And we got a whole bunch of new AI issues, and I saw like real human ways to address those AI issues in this item and presentation. Thank you. We have to continue those good efforts of what is, heart-to-heart dialogue and communication with each other, and not just data collection and technology data collection. I hope that's what Kip has come back to and is seeing happen and taking place, and is real hopeful about it. You have digital equity ideas you're going to be working on. I really hope those ideas can be around open public policies as well.
Back to the council.
All right, thank you. Let's go to council questions. Councilmember Arenas? Is that from before? Or it was from before. Okay, Councilmember Mahan?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the presentation. As you all know, I'm super excited about OKRs. Had a lot of time to talk to Dolan and Kip and others all about measures. I know some of you call me the dashboard guy behind my back, but no, really appreciate it. I think it's important to be able to measure where we want to go and assess our progress along the way and learn. So Just a few quick questions about the OKR system more than the substance of the specific kind of boxes within it. So one just question to help us all get oriented is, are the objectives in priority order from left to right, and then are the KRs in priority order from top to bottom, or should we not interpret it that way?
I would not look at it that way. The objectives are not necessarily listed in left to right, and the key results are not necessarily listed in priority order.
Okay, was that a conscious decision to not prioritize them?
It was. There's a lot of information being communicated on a single page. I think the good thing is there's a lot of information you can communicate on a single page, right? You can know the objectives we're trying to achieve. You can know those key results by which we measure if we're achieving those objectives or not, and those key results need to be very specific and definable and measurable. So as we kind of work through the real estate, in the same way that the city roadmap doesn't necessarily indicate left to right, top to bottom priorities, the objectives and key results do not indicate those either.
So how do we anticipate being able to trade off resources across objectives, especially when we're talking about across multiple enterprise priorities involving many different departments? Is that more of the budget process, or where does that trade-off happen?
Well, I think it's both. First of all, I know it's actually, time flies during a pandemic, right? So we actually have come to you twice with both the enterprise priority roadmap in 2020 and the city roadmap in 2021. We broke all those roadmap items into work streams, the 47 work streams, and we added a racial equity lens to prioritize those work streams, and we kind of budgeted accordingly to that. When we come back on November 30th, I think you're going to see an evolution of that process about how we're budgeting the ARP funds for the community and economic recovery. And then I think when it comes to the trade-offs, that will be something we're looking at moving forward, right? We haven't actually had to make trade-offs based on what council approved, but we'll probably be seeing the beginnings of that on November 30th, and I think it's best we kind of present that at that point in time when we're talking about the rebudget of the ARP funds.
Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation. I think my fear is that we could overlay a really complicated OKR model over everything we're doing today and just kind of map it all and say, okay, we've got dozens and dozens of objectives because we're a big, complicated system. And then we've got all of these OKRs, and rather than using this to be more strategic and deliver more impact by focusing and deliver on the results that are most important, we could just kind of create this as an existing, just sort of a description of what we're already doing. I think it's good to measure. I think the KR piece is really important. But I also hope that that this framework gives us an opportunity, especially as council, to weigh in on which of these objectives are most important. And rather than just kind of taking everything we already do and then just sort of describing them with a set of objectives and key results laid on top of the existing work. Does that distinction make sense?
It does, and I would say we're certainly open to that feedback, right? We brought the objectives and key results to you the first time now, so we're open to that feedback. We're also going to be engaging with the appropriate channels for the community and such as our Community and Economic Recovery Task Force to get their perspectives on the objectives and key results. At this point in time, we felt a bias to action, especially with the one-time, time-boxed funding for the American Rescue Plan. We felt it would be better to work with the teams and work with the task force and come back and show that action taking place and then adjust. So we are certainly open to council feedback on those objectives, but those were based on all the years worth of work we've done on the roadmap and the community economic recovery budgeting. Those seemed the most appropriate to begin to move forward with.
Right, and I think the current set's good. I'm talking about it more as a system as we think about the roadmap process next year and then heading into the budget process next year. I'm thinking ahead to that, not questioning the content of what's here today.
Fair enough, and I think one of the things we have said, but we probably need to reiterate is objectives and key results are proven, especially in Silicon Valley, as a way to measure success and define specific results for the beginnings of change initiatives. Once those change initiatives move into more stable business as usual, then you kind of transition over to what are those key objectives and performance measurements. I think the good thing for the city of San Jose is the federal funding requirements required us to define objectives and performance measures for each of the recovery items. So the directors and initiative owners have already done a good job of giving us something to work with and begin to transition from objectives and key results to outcomes and performance measures. But we wanted to get moving.
Yeah,
So this
I think it's
is
great.
kind of a work in progress, and that's what we hope with kind of engaging with some partners. They'll be able to give us some kind of unbiased perspective on how we can move both with objectives, key results, and performance measures and outcome measures, and as we move from strategic to business as usual.
Yeah, I think that's great. So on that last point, I was actually going to ask about KPIs. Do you imagine that as these change initiatives, I think you just said this, but I just want to make sure I'm clear on it, as they become more mature and stable, are we imagining something like a KPI to help us set targets against benchmarks and understand ongoing performance of the more stable programs?
On an ongoing basis, as we kind of mature, and that is what we envision.
Awesome.
We have a slide I won't show that kind of showed the anatomy of a roadmap measurement with KPIs, and it began to look like a circuit chip, so we decided it was a little too detailed. But that is what we envision, is having a minimum set of KPIs both at the enterprise priority level and at the initiative level that kind of can roll up into a dashboard. That's what we envision. But we've been kind of underwater with the pandemic, and we just haven't got there yet.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Okay, and then finally, last question from me on this. How do we, what is, in terms of our culture, I mean, we create these systems in a very impersonal way, but in terms of our best practices, our culture around this, what do we do to ensure that we're always coming back to the value for the resident? And I know that that's kind of what this exercise is meant to do, but I also think we can create a lot of completion goals and a lot of more internally focused KRs. And like, what are we culturally doing to make sure that we're always staying close to, well, we would have said in tech, staying close to the customer, but in this case, staying close to the residents and the actual impact that we're having, just to make sure that the system doesn't become this self-fulfilling, well, we're hitting all of our goals numerically, so we must be doing a great job. How do we validate that we're actually making people's lives better?
Well, I think the first step in that is with community and economic recovery, which is all about recovering to a better normal with equity. That we have a community economic recovery task force that's helping us act as a proxy for the community. So I think that's our immediate next step, and that's why we're reviewing those with the task force in less than 2 weeks, in less than 3 weeks.
Cool. I think we could also include some resident satisfaction measures and maybe like quality measures into the KRs as well. I didn't see a lot of those, but I feel like we could insert those in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to get into the discussion, we will have equity outcomes and measures. We'll have execution outcomes and measures. We'll have kind of performance outcomes and measures. We'll have community impacts outcomes and measures. Which is why we didn't rush into this, because with 41 initiatives and 8 enterprise priorities, pretty soon we're going to have 200 to 300 measures that we have to rationalize and bubble up. So I think we're agreeing with you. We'd have all of those, including some community engagement metrics as part of this.
Great. Yeah, it does sound like a lot. Hopefully we can also prioritize and focus a little more. But awesome. Appreciate all the great work on this and the good answers to the questions. Thank you. Oh, and I will move we need a motion to accept the staff report. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Great. Thank you. A lot of great work being done here. And of course, when you present a picture full of green and there's one red box, of course, I'm going to ask a question about the red box. So here it comes. I understand we're having a hard time meeting the goal of getting the 25% of families signed up for CalFresh. I think that's implied by the chart on page 4 about the food. And I'm just wondering, what are the barriers that we're experiencing there?
Well, I'm first of all going to ask if we still have Neil Rufino and John Cicerelli in the audience, and if they could be promoted to panelists, which I think.
If you can hear me, I'm here.
That is awesome. It actually worked.
This is just like the game show. It's pretty cool.
So John, would you like to, we lost you, but I think you're probably beaming back in. John, do you want to take the answer to that question about some of the challenges in getting residents enrolled in CalFresh and WIC?
Sure. And I'm also going to ask Tony if you could promote CJ Ryan from the public side, CJ Ryan, who helps head up the food branch. So part of the problem with that number, Mayor, John Cicerelli, Director of Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services. Part of the problem with that number is, when I started looking into it, it's not easy to measure. We don't have great consistent data from all of these different partners that we're doing food distribution with. And in some cases, it's not simple to get them to focus on transitioning people. They're just focused on feeding people, and they maybe put less energy into that. But I'm going to ask CJ Ryan to fill in some of the blanks, if you will. Thanks, CJ.
Okay. I guess.
Hi.
Hi, CJ.
Good evening, CJ Ryan, Interim Administrative Officer with PRNS. Thanks, John. Some of the issues that we're having is, first of all, many of our partners are stating that there is still a need out there. They have asked folks if they still need to get the food, and they do. So people are still in line for the food distribution. People are still receiving the meals at home. The other thing that we found is that our programs have identified a gap of folks that may not necessarily qualify for some of the state programs, such as CalFresh and WIC, but they still have a need, and so they're going to the programs that we're funding. Those are two of these.
Is immigration status a barrier, or is it their income's too high? Why aren't they qualifying?
That is a great question. We're trying to do some focus groups with one of our partners. We're going to start asking that question of why folks say that they still need to be part of this program and aren't signing up for the others. But anecdotally, we're finding that folks, for example, in the Great Plates Delivered program that we had, folks were making too much money to qualify for the other programs, but still had a need to have food.
Right. Okay. And is there a way for us, I know we've got contracts that are already signed with a lot of these providers, but the ways for us to integrate this as a requirement in the implementation of food contracts, that they got to be providing us this data showing that they're actually working with families to try to get them signed up?
Yeah, we can certainly take that back to the team and negotiate that into our contracts.
Okay, thanks, CJ. Appreciate that. And then on page 10, the Powered by People portion, really appreciate the endeavor to try to improve processes various ways, particularly it seems to be kind of a peak academy model where we're encouraging employees to, embrace an orphan process of some kind and come up with some redesigns. The report doesn't indicate where the three processes that were selected or the 9 processes that were identified for automation. And I know this is pretty wonky and I expect you to know off the top of your head, but could we include that in the reports just so we know, hey, what are we working on improving? Because I'm sure we all have our own pet processes that we'd love to see, not suggesting any in particular, but maybe, for example, procurement or hiring or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have that right in front of me, but they are pretty standard ones. Like one, for example, is we have had some challenges with the employee directory. What is the employee directory? How many do we have? Or what's the one source of truth? And IT and HR have been working on that for some time, but we actually did a process with Brian Elms to help us take from the learning lab to a process improvement endeavor where we actually used employees to help sort out what the pain points were and what some of the issues were. And so that's one example of something that's important for employees who are trying to find other employees as an example. But there are several other that, oh yeah, thank you for that. This one here. Yeah, so a lot of them have to do with key forms that really hang up the employees in terms of time. So the mileage reimbursement form, Temp U process, if anybody's had to endeavor on that, is a good example of complex ones that have been some time savers. I will say in the next quarter, you will see a key result around a pivot and a focus on adoption practices and measures of return on investment for doing some of these. We really are starting to kind of pull back a bit on just building new processes and endeavoring to understand how they're being adopted. So I'll come back to you with a clear list of what those things are that we're working on and have been prioritized through the BPA process, and then brought to this group in terms of Human-Centered Design Learning Lab, and then a business process improvement with, that's actually Brian Elms from the Change Innovation Academy, to do the human-centered part of it, and then take it and turn it into an actual process or a process improvement. So happy to share that with you.
Yeah, Kelly, could you do me a favor and put out an info memo? Can we develop one
I
on
would
the?
love to do an info.
Yeah, I know you
memo.
would. That's why I said favor. Anyway, can we discuss the 9 business process automation we did for first quarter, and then what's anticipated, and then also what's on the backlog list that we're going to get to eventually that's been identified. I think it'd be great for the council to know.
I would just love to do that.
I know.
from
Thank
afar.
you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
And if you could include pictures in case the words are really long.
Pictures are awesome too. Yeah.
Thank you. And then just referring to those 3 processes that were selected by the employees for redesign, why wasn't that carried forward to the current quarter OKRs? Seems like we tried it and then we discontinued it.
My apologies. I'm not sure I heard you correctly, Mayor.
Yeah, I think I'm still on page 10.
3 from last quarter moved somehow into the next. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I was just assuming this would be a continual process of improvement. We'd identify new processes.
Yeah.
It seems like it stopped in this quarter.
It doesn't work exactly like that. Some of what comes out of the Human-Centered Design Learning Lab doesn't lend itself immediately to a business process improvement activity. I almost don't dare to adventure one, but one that we had put through the but I'll do it anyways, right? We put one through the Human-Centered Design Learning Lab to understand what the experience was of employees involved in the council memo process, for example. And so we learned a lot about how we could help ourselves internally with the process, but it didn't necessarily lend itself to sending it through a business process improvement because there were so many factors involved. So I'd have to look at what the 3 were for this one to see, did we actually build it into what our thinking is and planning is for the spring or not? Or was there something about the 3 that we're doing that don't lend themselves exactly to going in? We might have picked 3 others.
Or would there be a reason in this quarter for the employees to pick 3 more? I guess that was.
Yes. Yeah. So when I write this lovely info memo, it'll become crystal clear with some pictures.
Okay, fantastic.
Cool.
And then finally on housing assistance, again, I guess we have to call a friend on this, but I know the state's taken over the distribution of that funding, and we've got, I think, 2,000 households we're hoping that they'll reach. Are they giving us any deadline of when they're going to be able to distribute the money to this 2,000 families?
Thank you, Mayor. I am hoping that Jackie Morales-Ferran is on the phone, or perhaps either Rachel Vanderveen to answer that question.
They might need to be promoted by the
yes.
city clerk from the audience to the panelist.
Tony, do you see Rachel?
You see Rachel or Jackie?
Or Jackie.
Thank you.
I thought we just had a big audience because we were popular, but in fact, it's all city staff waiting for us to hurry up.
Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, I'm Jackie Morales-Ferran. I'm the Director of Housing. We don't have a timeline from the state regarding when they're going to be distributing all of the funding, but what it looks like now is that San Jose is very close to having as many people in the queue, meaning have submitted applications and are waiting to get paid in terms of the amount of money that's available. So the state is working, very carefully to try to see if we can redistribute funding to those cities and counties that have met their allocated money. And thank you, Mayor. I know you have released a letter with other mayors asking for the feds to also redistribute money. So we're still encouraging people to apply. And the state is, slowly but surely working through getting the money out.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Jackie. Okay, any other questions from the council? Councilmember Rennes?
Thank you. I have some questions around, sorry, where am I? First of all, just thank you for the update. This was really helpful to understand some of the progress that's been being made, and also to understand how you're balancing all of these things together. So thank you. You have, as part of Empower Community with Resources that Build Resiliency, the 30 outreach events, and then you have a conduct 12 Boost Biz SJ business walks and webinars, the most heavily impacted COVID-19 commercial corridors, to outline resources. So my question is, how can we align these Boost Biz SJ business walks and webinars with some of the established ethnic small businesses associations, or the ones that are emerging? Particularly, I'm thinking about mine because that was part of what I requested as in my budget to develop a Tully corridor business association. And so I'm hoping that I'm hoping that we can get this one established before and going before we have any of the infrastructure construction happening, hopefully with light rail, and I'm going to knock on wood that it begins next year. Or at least the utility relocation of it will be.
I see Nancy Klein is here and leaning heavily into the microphone, so I'm heard better, as I have been told to do. I'm going to ask Nancy if she could answer that question for us. Thank you.
Good evening, Nancy Klein, Office of Economic Development. Thank you for the question, Councilmember Arenas. So the walks that you've seen so far are the beginning, not the end. And so we will indeed continue. We've used a area to focus on the walk so far on where the businesses have been the hardest hit. And we'll continue to coordinate, and we totally agree with you that as the different business associations and or PBIDs get going, that it'll be an opportunity to leverage and tie those together in some ways that we will continue to evolve.
Great. Well, I would like to see where in that process a place like Tully could fit in, and hopefully around Aborn. I mean, there's just so many corridors throughout our city. I'm sure my colleagues can think of their own in their respective districts, and many that are ethnic based, right? So there's a lot of small ethnic based businesses. So we can talk offline on how that would work. I want to make sure that we get some of the support going for our small businesses. I know that, who was it that gave us that statistic? I think it was Jesus Flores who said that there's primarily a lot of women owned businesses, ethnic. Yeah, and you're shaking your head. So yes, so that's important also, so that we can continue to keep women in the workforce as as they desire to be part of that, the recovery phase. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And then I have another question about the sustainability plan for the programs under, this is for all the green lit key results that, for the distribution of the hotspots, the launching of the 31 childcare slots, the launching of the 18 recreation preschool classes for 210 children, the community centers and parks open and operate 2 rent relief and eviction centers. And so since these are marked MET and they're marked green, what is that sustainability plan for these programs and efforts? Will these programs continue to be implemented and served as a priority come Q2 and subsequent quarters, or is this one and done?
So I think we'd need to take each one of those programs individually, because I think that they, as you listed them off, they span multiple departments. So if one of the things I could offer, if it makes things a little more efficient and effective, is to come back and in the next update, which will be early next year, and give you an update on the sustainability of those results that were achieved.
Right. I appreciate that. What ultimately my concern is that some of these, that some of this work will be removed from the staff workload. And then because it's perceived as completed and done, that it then is taken off somebody's folder here. So I know there's different expectations for the list that I named off, and we can go offline and go through each one of them. But there's some that carry on the work, I'm sure, beyond Q1.
Yeah, completely agree. So there's some, I think that's a very good point, that we need to make sure that it doesn't just become a result as accomplished, but then it's not sustained. And that's certainly not the case with most of these programs. We're not going to just distribute hotspots for 1 year and then stop. But I think that I think that's a good feedback into how we come back with the reporting, is to also look backwards and make sure that the sustainability of what we achieved is included in the status report.
And if I can make a suggestion, Dolan, I think also what I think the council members are interested in is, many things I think on the roadmap may only be one-time funded through the end of the fiscal year, and some things may be ongoing funded, to making that distinction, so we understand also, as we're approaching the budget process, which ones may have funding challenges going into the next year, as the council is considering their priorities as we develop the budget.
And City Manager, if I could also add, Councilmember Arenas, another way that we can provide information on sustainability of the items that have actually been completed is through our status reports to the various committees. All of these initiatives are assigned to a committee, whether it be CED or NSC, and that will be a way also to provide information on sustainability.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and
Roseanne.
Councilmember, if I could give an example of how we're doing that. So for example, in the area of children, child care and youth services. So here, the activities and the efforts that we're making here on this roadmap are meeting kind of the immediate pain points that we've identified in these, very vulnerable communities, right? And then on a parallel track, as you know, through NSC, for example, we're doing a deeper dive in terms of the development of a children and youth master plan, where we're taking a look at these same locations and also doing an overlay of trying to identify any additional need that may exist. And then I think that'll give us the data and the information to make well-informed decisions around what we need to kind of sustain long-term and what it would cost. And so that's how we're trying to kind of move this from, step one is meet the immediate pain that's in the community. Step two is really work out a well thought out strategy to make sure that need continues to get met. As well as identifying any emerging needs that develop from the time that this has been done. So that's just one example of how we're trying to operationalize it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My last question is around the objectives and the key results. And Angel, you might be able to answer this now that you mentioned the youth and children master plan. How do the objectives and key results fall in line with a logic model? I mean, I know that the logic model asks for these inputs and outputs and ultimately the objective that we want to achieve. And so how does that support the OKRs?
Yeah, Councilman, that's a great question. And so it does it in two ways. One, when we develop these OKRs, we develop, kind of these high level key objectives. At the end of the day, what do we want to accomplish, right? And what we're doing, for example, in the area of children and youth services, we've been developing this logic model, which, as you know, is premised on a theory of change, right? So we have a problem. What are we solving for? What are the actions that we need to take? What are the inputs? What are the investments? What are the ultimate outcomes? And then what are the metrics that determine whether or not we're meeting them? And then that helps inform other things. there's that. And then there's a third element, right, that we haven't really talked much today, but is actually happening literally right now as we speak. We have a pilot going on around results-based accountability. And it kind of speaks a little bit to what Councilmember Mahan was asking about. You know, we start with the OKRs, but then we begin to take a look at the work that we're doing, and we start taking a look at community level indicators, performance metrics, you know, as well as disaggregated data, right?
Got it.
And then we take those three efforts and we really, you know, do the, you know, we analyze them, and then we prove them with kind of what, not only what the data is telling us, but what we're seeing in the community and what we're hearing from our residents, hence the customer satisfaction, you know, information as well. And we consolidate all those things to help inform decisions going forward. And so at the end of the day, we'll get to the point where that becomes a discipline within our organization, right? And right now we're doing a pilot with 8 departments where we're working with the departments to really build that skill set, because it is an art, right? It is a discipline. It's not something that, you know, you just kind of start on the job and know. So I think that pilot's going real well, and we're bringing in some subject matter experts as well to kind of help with that facilitation process along the way. So I think what you'll see down the road is kind of the execution of a much more strategic and kind of disciplined approach that would include OKRs, result-based accountability, and logic models, theory of change, wherever applicable.
That's wonderful. And I believe I mentioned this to you before, Angel, and thank you for reminding me of that conversation that we had. Because it was more than 20 years ago when I worked for the city of San Jose, and we were heading towards results-based accountability framework, where we weren't no longer counting the number of times we took our youth to blah, 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 but we were really looking at some results. And so I know that some of that work that PRNS had completed back then was lost because of the not the res- the downturn in the economy, and we had to let go of a lot of folks. And with that, we had to let go of I guess some of that, some of what we followed in terms of being accountable. And so, you know, with that lesson in mind, I think, we're going through a recovery phase. And it's interesting to see how some of the really good work that's done in the past gets lost over time. And I hope that this doesn't get lost. And how do we institutionalize a results-based framework so that all of the departments move through this? And it sounds like these OKRs are the first step in that right direction. And so I was really surprised when I learned that not every department moves in to the tune of the results-based accountability. And I was surprised because I thought, when I left, that's the work that we were all doing. And I thought, more than 20 years later, I would see the progress of that. But it's welcome now, and it's a good point to begin to do that, because many of us ask, what is it that we are gaining from this investment and from this funding, other than a number of activities? And is this the best? When you talked about theory of change, like, what is that strategy that is most effective with our communities? Because it doesn't matter whether we do it 100 times, but if it's not effective, if it is not in the language that our community wants and needs, and if it's not in the modality that they need, sometimes in person or sometimes in the written form or whatever it is, that we continue to flow and adapt and respond to our community. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this getting implemented. I'm sure it'll be some years before we really see this functioning seamlessly across all departments. But thank you.
Okay, I think it's time to vote.
Jimenez, Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo,
Aye.
and Jimenez.
Yes, on minutes.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your patience. All right, item 3.8 is agreement with standard insurance for group life and accidental death and dismemberment and other stuff. There's no presentation. There's a motion and second. Are there any comments from the public?
No hands.
Let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, item 3.9, agreement with standard insurance company for long-term disability insurance.
Move approval.
Let's vote. Unless there's somebody from the public like to
Just
speak.
to confirm, no hands are
Nope,
up.
okay.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
It's turning off his duck. Okay, 3.10 is agreement with New York Life Group Benefit Solutions for Accidental Death and Dismemberment Voluntary Insurance.
So moved.
Second. Okay, are there any members of the public or insurance salesmen who'd like to offer us a better deal?
No hands.
Let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye. Hi, Diggity Dog, it's time for open forum.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the meeting today. Thank you for the words of Councilperson Arenas talking about, the future roadmap issues. I wanted to mention the ideas of accountability that can be used for the future of digital equity ideas. To bring those kind of concepts together, I think can be really important for the future of our bridging the digital divide issues. And speaking of that issue, a nice reminder that I hope we can be considering, our good open accountability practices, with, the future of, technology advisory boards and the like in San Jose. These sort of subjects need to work better hand in hand in the future, and they're not mutually exclusive things anymore, I don't think. It's to learn how to do that. That's where the innovation is for us to work on, I feel. And with Coyote Valley issues, the same thing. There's technology and surveillance data collection issues that will be needed. Good luck in open public policies with.
Krishna.
I'd like to introduce to you something called Megan's Law. Looks like you're not familiar with such a thing. This seems to be a mechanism to warn a neighborhood of sexual predators living in the neighborhood. When sexual predators move into a neighborhood, the data is published in the Megan's Law website. The purpose is to let all neighbors know of possible danger in the neighborhood, danger in terms of sexual contact. This is so that neighbors can be careful about, for example, letting children walk to the school bus alone. Our neighborhood around 71 Vista Montana is very dense. There are all sorts of activities going on all the time. We have two very extremely well-used parks around this site. We share a boundary wall with the RV park you created here. Doesn't it make sense to you all that we are asking for the list of people you placed at this site that have to be reported to Megan's Law? We have asked for this from day one. That's 2.5 months ago. Why have we not provided this list? Can someone from amongst you please gather up some courage and answer this question? Come on, act responsibly. Do not just adjourn the meeting and walk away without answering this question like you have been always doing for the last 2.5 months, every council meeting. I have only one answer. Yes, city has something to hide. And yes, we did file a public records request and
Paul Soto.
Yeah, Paul Soto from the Horseshoe. There was an equity argument with respect to extracting those infrastructure dollars, and because they knew that the redlining maps that the infrastructures were also impacted. That's how we got the freeway going right through the Mexicans. And if you look at the redlining map, it went right along that line from the Horseshoe to Saucipuedes. And so what I'm asking for is that objective definition that they use to extract those infrastructure dollars, the definition's already there, because that's how they got the allocation of the funding. That just go ahead and continue. That way nobody has to decide as to whether or not where it should go or what should be done with it. It's already set in place, and the people whose lives have been impacted generationally.
Jill Borders.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to thank you for, at the end of the agenda, it says that you'll adjourn in the memory of Kent Greathouse. And I know it's very late, but I couldn't let this opportunity go by to let you know and let all those who were touched by Kent Greathouse know how much he personally meant to me and the example that he set for me and my family as we struggled to make sense of and navigate for the first time really being involved in at City Hall and trying to advocate for yourself. And so I just wanted to thank Kent Greathouse and his wife and just really say thank you for putting his name on the bottom of the agenda that way, because he was an amazing person, amazing man that taught me so much and gave me hope that I could too, do what I needed to do to protect my family. So thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it.
A Gold.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm going back to speaking about 71 Vista Montana parking lot. Notice that you put up a black type of mesh along the fence. It helps hide some of the hideous things that are in there. But we can still see what's going on, and the security that was promised to us as a neighborhood is completely lacking. Just today or yesterday, one of the tenants of the parking lot decided to dump furniture or things outside of the fence. The security in that parking lot is only concerned about what's happening within that lot and not what's outside of our neighborhood. You keep putting our neighborhood in peril, and we don't get any results. And you're not telling us what's happening. And again, with the Megan's Law, we don't know who is in there and if they've been vetted properly. Thank you.
Call-in user 1.
Yeah, you guys aren't taking care of business here now, are you? Got the homeless problem. You got a downtown, which I call Plywood City. And you guys need to take care of business. You guys need to handle infrastructure projects here. I mean, I hope you don't screw up all the money that Pete Buttigieg is going to give you guys. I know Sam's been there in DC and everything with the big smiles and the handshakes. I hope it doesn't get screwed up. But you need to fix this city. You need to pave the roads. You need to stay away from these village projects. I'm glad you didn't do this development out in Coyote Valley, because this city can't handle what's in its limits, let alone something that's in the outer limits of this town. Be glad you didn't do it, because you.
Back to the council.
Everybody, time to go home. Meeting's adjourned.